Hello, dear baby listener. This is Alan from the future relative to this episode, but still the past relative to when you're listening to it. Coming in up front to say a few things that I didn't say at the beginning of the episode in real time. So going to go through these real quick and get you to the episode. Step one, I'm going to try and start mentioning this up front, but this is a very spoiler-full podcast. If you have not seen God of War and you would like to save some of the mystery and play it for yourself, we spoil everything. We go in the ending, we go into big moments, everything. So if that's the case, go check out another episode of ours. A couple of other things. We really great news. We got picked up by a podcasting network. You're going to hear me mention this at the end of the episode, but I wanted to say it up at the front of the episode. We got picked up by a podcast network called The Network. They have lots of other great shows you can go check out. Their website is B as in boy, I as in the letter I, C as in Koi, B as in boy again, and P as in Philip with a P and not an F. That's bicbp-radio.com. You can check out our podcast as well as many other great shows there. One other little thing is when we recorded this episode, some of the audio got a little corrupted, messed up. I've done my best to edit around it and to fix it, but if we hear some weird artifacts, just know that future episodes won't have that. We've figured it out and fixed it. So, but didn't affect the content. It's a great episode, probably my favorite so far. Okay, on to the episode. Yes, okay, I have to pee very badly, so like 1 minute break, 2 minute break, and then we will go into the meat of which. Sorry, it's going on long. These things always go on long. I'm sorry.
The meaty boys.
You're good. It's sort of expected. But yeah, we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Collect yourselves. I have to pee so bad. I've been chugging water. BRB.
Zach, the Bill, or who the Patriots play? Or Patriots? Who's Pittsburgh play?
Cincinnati. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's that game's gonna go either it's gonna be a nail biter that they lose or they're gonna get their ass kicked. No two ways about it. The only hope I have for the division is that Paul Brown is a fucking moron and refuses to pay Burrow money.
I don't know what they're waiting for. Every year the quarterbacks just get more expensive.
Okay.
No, it's just like the contracts these fucking quarterbacks are getting are crazy.
Oh, I leave you two alone for 1 minute.
Hey, football starts tomorrow, okay?
Football started already. The Bills look fucking great though. But no, like it's just I think the Steelers are in trouble on Sunday. I had no expectations for this year. I just hope that they don't send Kenny Pickett out to die behind that O-line. You know, get the O-line in the next draft and then there'll be something because everybody else is still young. You know, now we're a young team.
I'm shutting it down. Stop. I rarely use my authority, but I'm shutting down the sports talk.
Oh, come on.
It was just me and Steve. We didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, everyone else is pissing their brains out. Right, do you do sports?
No. I'll answer that for him. He's gonna lie to you to try to see.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I watch the Bulls get down sometimes and
He doesn't know what he's saying.
socks.
Socks.
Which socks?
No,
All
just
of
the
them.
socks.
I love the I love every
love
all
watching-
the socks. All the socks.
I love watching their big, beautiful socks.
Yeah, the way they launch that pigskin is better than any other team I've ever
Oh,
seen,
here we
so.
go.
Yeah.
Steve, you don't watch college football, right?
No.
No, I don't. I don't,
No!
I
unfortunately.
think he's having a mental breakdown.
I got too much on my plate to get into college as well.
I think if we're going to talk about football, it's
So the
only
story
about
of God of War is
the greatest football game of all time, Jerry Rice and Nidus dog football. That's the
I don't know
only
what that
thing
is.
here.
Have you heard of Mutant League football?
fucking A. I can't stop it. I'm watching this all.
But No, we can go back to God of War.
Yeah.
Steve and I were just casting
Thank
Biggie
you.
wants to
I
shut down the sports talk.
God, you know what, Steve? We should just do like sports chat
Sports
with the
podcast.
Cheese and Zach.
Do your own sports cast. I don't care.
It's a
That's what I
catchy
always say
title.
on my other podcast that I'm on, because we always end up talking sports a little bit. And I'm always like, by the way, this is not a sports podcast. It just comes up. It just comes up.
You should do a sports podcast, and I will guest star as the clueless idiot who doesn't know anything. I will be and I will.
Then you're qualified. You're qualified for a sports podcast. That's what everyone is.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It's all guessing and bullshit anyway.
Yeah, right.
yeah, well, I can do that. What we should do is we should do a sports podcast, and I should be on it and try to bullshit my way through it and see how long it takes for listeners to notice, like a stealth, like.
No, here's the thing.
It's actually a really funny
It's the
premise
Among Us
So-
of
Yeah.
sport podcast.
Like,
where like you'd invite two guests on who are experts and see how long you can string them along before they're like, is this a prank?
but no, like there's a lot of sportscasters. Like you could come up with the most stupidest takes about sports, and that's a job. Like if you stay away from statistics and you're just like, yeah, you know, I think that the Cleveland Browns are going to win the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, and here's why. Like somebody's going to be like, okay, like go on.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, the 49ers are totally they're gonna take it this year. I don't know.
They
I mean,
could.
like, I don't know. Dan's performance hasn't been super great. But I feel like, you know,
Yeah,
I feel like
don't
they're
maybe
still
don't
gonna
use
make it.
names.
Yeah, I'm just gonna use first names. Like someone on that team name is Dan. So like, I don't care. I don't care if he's fifth string. Yeah, like,
You pull up the roster and just pick like, you know, pick a
random
position. Yeah.
yeah. You know, but the injuries. People are always talking about the injuries.
The injuries hampering the season.
Heyo, it's Heyo, and welcome to G.O.A.T Games, where we only play the best games. I'm your host, Alan Newton. On G.O.A.T Games, we look at. On G.O.A.T Games, we take a look. On G.O.A.T Games, we take a look at games that are considered the greatest of all time and talk about them. Are they great? What makes them great? Or are they just overrated? Let's find out. We like to have streamers on the show whenever we can, so you can watch the host play the games we talk about in real time. I'm reading from a script this time, guys. It's not going great. You can watch me at twitch.tv/Figgy_O, Figgy-O. And I'm joined today by other streamers. Guys, this is all five of us. So, dear baby listener, if you're listening right now, these are the voices that you need to internalize, that you need to make your new parasocial best friends, okay? This is the whole gang. We've had mixes and matches for the past episodes, but this is everyone so far. It'll probably end up being like 50 different streamers by the time we're done. But right now, it's us. So in alphabetical order, hold on, wait. I have to figure out my alphabet. We have Quentin. Quentin, introduce yourself.
You can forget that name. You can call me Rat, or my close friends and enemies call me Q.
Okay.
So, yeah, I usually go by Rat or Q. And if you're ever curious, you can watch my whatever the heck I'm doing on Twitch, which is kind of random at the moment, at Rat Parade. Oh, if there's you'll figure.
There's
it out.
an underscore in it. Let me help you. It's rat_parade.
I'm a really good streamer.
Yeah, very, very professional. Okay, great. Thank you, Q. Next is QRST. Okay. Next we have Steve.
That's me. I'm Steve. Yeah, I also stream sometimes. I also don't know what I'm doing when I'm streaming. But you can come check me out at twitch.tv/Steve4Cheese. 4 with the number 4, not FOR, or not FORE like you're playing golf. I don't golf. I don't golf.
Steve 4 years ago, Steve.
That has a whole new meaning now with Steve 4 Cheese.
I know, right?
I will. Okay, I'll not make a dirty joke. Okay, next we have.
Do it, you coward.
I did the wrong alphabet. Oh, I did it backwards. Rob should have been first, and it doesn't matter. Next,
I can go under super for Super Captain Rob.
That's what I was looking at. I was looking at the screen names and not your Christian names. Not your. So next we have Rob.
Yep, I'm Rob, Super Captain Rob on Twitch, all one word. I'm a variety streamer, accidental just chatter, and recent submitter of a Popeye 2021 speedrun, which should be the third fastest ever recorded after it gets verified by speedrun.com.
Oh, you're the one.
Oh, yeah.
I've read about you.
Oh, yeah. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/SuperCaptainRob. I stream Tuesdays through Thursdays starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time and Saturday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. I am also on Twitter at the same name. Any tweet on my Twitter that has a SpongeBob gif attached to it is something that my chat made me tweet. I promise I have not pooped my pants that many times on stream.
A likely story.
Yeah, what? Okay, sure.
How come Rob sounded like way too professional?
I wrote it out ahead of time.
Mine and Rats were just kind of like, oh, we just do things.
Yeah, this is how you do it, gentlemen. This is how it's done. Take notes. And last, and I mean, someone has to be least. It's probably not him. But one of us here is least. Is Zach.
Me and Rat. Me or Rat, one of the two. At this point.
Zach.
Oh, y'all are too kind. Zach with Zach Attacks Games. It's a ZACH, not K. I'm not a heathen. I sometimes stream on Twitch. It's been a long time, though. But I promise I'm coming back. I'm working on a couple things for that. If you want to come hang out and, don't want to commit to any games yet, but I want to try some different stuff as far as Twitch goes. But for the most part, I'm a little bit of a variety streamer with a slight bias towards, the Souls games. I love that shit. Gives me life. I think the last thing I streamed hardcore was Elden Ring, and then I moved and finally got all my stuff set up and working again. So that was a big step. And then I got really good internet again, which was the other step. Now I just need to, hit that go live button, but it's easier said than done sometimes.
We are waiting with bated, which I don't know what that word means, but suffice. My breath is definitely bated breath for you to come back.
Quivering with anticipation.
Yeah.
I feel like if I come back in September, though, when it's September, it'll be like, oh, this guy wants money again.
Hey, that's what I did.
Oh. And?
Like, dude, I don't want money. I just want people to hang out.
Yeah, and well, you know what? And I'm gonna break this like humble pie fucking string that we have going and say that I'm a fantastic streamer. I'm great.
It's true.
I'm amazing. None of this humble. I don't know what I'm doing shit. Like you should come watch all of these people and especially me. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's true. I would say especially Rob, but especially Figgy, but especially Steve, but especially Q.
Yeah. No.
But especially Zach.
We got all the amazing people.
Should we just kiss? I feel like we should just kiss.
Yeah, we should all get everyone getting real close. 5-way kiss all at once. It's like a Twitch witching ritual. The 5-way Twitch streamer kiss. We'll fuse like Voltron and become an ultra streamer. That reference is way too old and dated for 90% of people who listen to anything.
Meanwhile, I literally have a Gundam on my desk from a show from 1979.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, like we're old men. You can't tell by the what sounds like honestly borderline pubescent voice I talk with, but I'm an old man. So yeah, okay. Love being old. Love being pubescent. Okay, that's not going in the podcast. I'm not gonna say
Love being pubescent. Is that what you were about to say?
Okay.
I think now you don't get to cut it.
Here's a good descriptor of my age. I woke up yesterday and I guess I slept the wrong way you're supposed to sleep because I've been walking hunched over like a dinosaur all day. My back hurts.
Oh, no.
I did nothing wrong. It's true, though. I used to run and I would jump just for fun.
You mean both your feet would leave the ground at the same time?
Yes. And I was thinking the other day, like, when's the last time I tried to get both my feet off the ground for no reason?
Don't do it.
Jumped in years.
The risk isn't worth it. Don't do it.
The bards still sing of it.
Yeah, he ran bare-breasted in the fields, leaping like a fawn. Okay. All right.
Why are we here?
To talk about your leaping. To talk about your vertical leap. Today we are talking about the game God of War, the 2018 version, the old man God War version. I'm gonna do a little intro and a little to do about why it's good. Dear baby listener, behind the scenes, Rob had the idea last time of like, we should do like a little elevator pitch of like, why the game is good, what makes it great, just add a little sheen of professionalism on this turd. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And then Rob came in with this emotional, like beautifully written narrative about how Earthbound changed his life. The gauntlet has been thrown down. And so these are just going to get progressively more like intense until like the whole podcast is just an essay. So if it's a little over the top, it's Rob's fault. I'm just kidding. God of War is the 8th. Here we go. A 1, a 2. There's a fly on my screen. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. And the God of War is the 8th installment of the popular God of War franchise, developed by Santa Monica Studios with lead direction by Cory Barlog, not Balrog. No matter how hard you want to say Balrog, it's Barlog.
Do you know how many times I was like, oh yeah, Cory Barlog, or Balrog? And they're like, what?
You can't. Yeah, no, you can't. It's like you immediately picture Gandalf and do not pass in the whole thing. It's Barlog. The game was released in 2018 to critical and fan acclaim. It performed very well commercially as well. It sold over 3.1 million copies in its first 3 days of release, becoming the fastest selling game of the franchise and one of the fastest selling games of the PlayStation 4 of all time. It has since sold over 19.5 million copies at least since the time of this recording. That's the most recent sales figure I could find. That was in 2021 though, so it's probably sold even more. It's probably up to 20 million. I'm just going to say
I think they put it on the PS Plus, and I think you can get it with like the PS5 like back collection. So there's probably, even more people have played it than 19.5 million.
Every person has played it. I'm sure Joe Biden has played it. Everybody has played this game. The God of War series centers on Kratos, a Spartan warrior who sets out on a quest to destroy all the gods in the Greek pantheon after being tricked into killing his own family by the Greek god Ares. It happens. The Greek arc of this game would last for 7 games total, the last entry being God of War Ascension on the PlayStation 3 in 2013. The series was generally lauded for its responsive gameplay, brutal combat, and the incredible scale of its levels and boss fights. The game also received attention for its over-the-top violence and sexual content. To this day, the series is inextricably associated with excess. The 2018 God of War marked a reboot of the franchise and a departure from the hallmarks of the series the previous 7 games had established. Everything from the combat to the camera is revamped, but it is Kratos himself that has changed the most. In this entry, a much older, generally calmer Kratos sets out with his son, Atreus, to scatter the ashes of his recently deceased second wife. He's also the mother of Atreus. Along the way, he draws the attention of the Norse gods, and despite his best intentions, ends up doing what he does best, beating the absolute shit out of the divine. However, the plot, god-smashing, and MacGuffin hunting takes backseat to the true driving force of the narrative, Kratos' relationship with his son. Barlog has said that his perspective on gaming changed when he had his son, and this game makes that apparent. The two start as father and son, essentially estranged from each other. The player will watch the father and son grow to understand each other and learn from each other, and they will watch Kratos reckon with his own past and failures. The game takes its time developing these two characters and their relationship with each other to a degree rarely found in any game, let alone a God of War game. A series that used to be synonymous with mindless fun has learned how to revel in its intimacy just as much as its violence, its nuance as much as its excess. And it uses one of video game's strongest characters to teach a lesson on vulnerability. God of War 2018 is a GOAT. Spoilers for my decision.
It was beautiful.
But it's supposed to be an elevator pitch.
That was sexy.
Come right out there and say that, huh?
Yeah, spoiler. I mean, you guys. So you guys.
The episode guide.
All right, let's pack it up, guys. It's been decided. We're out of here.
So
Next time.
Case
you guys,
closed.
all 4 of you have to try to prove me wrong now.
No.
I don't know if these elevator pitches is if it's like because I mean the general idea is that someone who likes the game should do them, right? I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I mean, like if like an elevator pitch is like, how would you sell someone on this thing? So it makes sense to have someone who loves it sell the thing,
right?
You know, like if
and that was a really long elevator ride. It's like for the 60th floor of a high rise because that took like. Like the guy in the elevator is like, okay, dude, stop talking. Like
if I came in and was like, yeah, God of War 4 is about kind of a jaded asshole who sucks, and I hate him. The combat's awful, the puzzles are terrible, but we're gonna talk about it. You know, like that's not a good elevator pitch. So
exactly. You want the listener to be excited about the dear baby listener. I hope you are excited about this game, so we can trick you and actually tell you about how terrible it is. You know,
it's got me even more excited and curious to go play the old ones because you just said that Kratos is a much calmer, wiser man. In this one. He seemed pretty damn intense.
Oh no!
Holy smokes!
No, like the original, like PS2 and PS3 God of Wars are a whole different ball game. Like this is very toned down. Like the sex and violence in the first 3 core games is like, oh my god, maybe Tipper Gore was right, and video games need to be banned.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and I think as we'll get into the developers of this game are extremely aware of that history. Like it's because of that history. It's honestly kind of because of that history that this game is even like more effective, I feel like.
Definitely.
So yeah. So speaking of, let's go ahead and do a little round robin and briefly talk about like what is our experience with God of War. I'm gonna do eeny meeny miny mo, catch a tiger by his toe. If he hollers, let him go. Rob, you go first.
All right. This was the first God of War game that I've ever played. I had not played it before the podcast. So yeah, this was my introduction to the series. I went in expecting like a straight up kind of character action game, and it's not that exactly. It is a little different from that. I wanted to not speed run through the end of it, so I started playing early and managed to beat it about a week early because I didn't want to be here so tired that I kept calling it Undertale.
It'd be wild if you confused this game with Undertale.
And
Kratos.
Yeah, and then like since I beat it early and had extra time, I decided to go back and play the original God of War as like a point of reference because I was like, I could do that or like spend a whole week throwing my face into Valkyrie fights, and I felt like that would be kind of more valuable in terms of giving me some perspective. So I ended up playing the original one and God of War.
Ooh, nice. Excellent. Cool. Okay. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by his toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Quentin. Q. Rat.
Yeah. So much like Rob, this was my very first experience playing God of War. I was vaguely familiar with the franchise in the game because, it's pretty popular and polarized. But I have never played any of them. I didn't know any of the story. I don't know anything about God of War. All I know is Kratos, bald man with a red stripe on his head, beats a lot of people up and is very angry. That was about it. So this was my first experience going in and playing God of War 4. I am super excited to go back and play the older ones after playing this one, but I have a vague idea of the previous plots now, very vaguely. But this is the first arc and experience I've had with the franchise.
Nice. And then eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by his tail. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Steve.
Eat shit, Zach.
I feel like that's going to be a conversation we have all football season, you son of a bitch.
No. Okay, so unlike Rob and Rat here, I actually did play all of them.
True
all
fan.
of them. It's not even like I love these games. It's just something that happened, I guess. I got I didn't even get it. My dad plays these games, right? So my dad got the original one on PS2 when that came out because he heard that was good and everything. And he holds his own in video games, but there's certain parts where he's just like, yeah, I can't do this. Can you try to beat this for me? And I would, I'd take the controller over and I would beat it for him. We also played all of these on the hardest difficulty too. That was something we were just like, yeah, we got to go balls to the wall here, or not at all. So we started out on the original one, and we've just kept up with the series ever since. So then 2 came out, we played that, and then 3 came out on the PS3, we played that. They had 2 side games, I believe, on the PSP and PS Vita. I didn't play those on those systems, but they did do like some sort of collection where they bundled the 2 together and released it on PS3. So I played those. And then there was God of War Ascension, I believe it's called, which is like a prequel game. It's probably the worst one. So we played that, and then we were stoked for God of War 4, and we obviously played that, and I got the new one pre-ordered at $75 with PS5. That's
the Ragnarok one.
Yeah. No, just the regular edition.
Oh. Wait, no, the new one coming out. The
Ragnarok. The new one coming out. Yeah, it's not like a special edition or anything, but it's just the price of PS5 games now are just $75 a pop, which is so sad, but whatever. That's a whole nother
times
topic.
Are tough, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't eat, and I can't get my PS5 games at the price.
Right? I know. It's sad times indeed. But yeah, that's so I've kept up with the series. Me and my dad have been, going through all these games, and we're likely to do that with the new one coming out as well.
Okay, excellent. Wow. I mean, I didn't realize I had like such a strong like father-son familial bond.
Well, I mean, you said that last episode about Earthbound, and like, oh wow, I didn't know you were that deep into it. It's like, I'm really not. It's just like something that happened, and I don't know. I guess I've managed to keep up with the series. The God of War, this one that we're talking about, I haven't played this one since it came out. So I'm going to be honest, I'm a little rusty. It's been a couple of years, but I still have a general idea of everything. And
if you've played the entire series, I'll also give a good perspective, because some of us here have not. Maybe none of us here, I don't know, we're about to get to Zach, have not played the entire series. And also, it's a good thing that you like these games and you have these connections, Steve. I'm not calling you out. I'm not putting you on blast.
No, I know. No, you're good. You're good.
But yeah, it's quite the father.
I just don't want people thinking that I like when I play these games, I paint my face red and rip my shirt off and show my pectoral abs and everything. It's not like that sweet. It's a little.
You're really gonna steal that fantasy from our listeners.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
That's a great idea for a stream. Like, shave your head, bro. Do it.
Yeah. Just cover yourself up in flour and
exactly. Yeah. Right.
No, go. Get crazy with it. Get ashes out of the fireplace.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's crazy.
You're gonna have to grow your beard out for another 2 years to get that Kratos beard.
Give it a week.
That's probably like a reference only Steve and I are gonna get, though. Well, no. Do you know why? Our
I think I have some bad news for you, bud.
Dang it!
Getting monetized.
Shoot.
Yeah, we'll just rejoin the call.
Hold on, the call is ending, dear baby listener. 1 second. Extend call. Fucking A. No free lunches in this world.
Right. I told you, man. We got to go to the Zencaster because it's free.
I guess so. Tonight. Hold on. Let me buy this and then I'll cancel it.
But yeah. While Figgy does that, does anyone other than Steve know why Kratos is like an ashy color?
Yes, I do.
You know? Okay.
Because it talks about it in the first game.
Yeah.
No idea. It's he's covered in the ashes of his dead children and wife because he killed them.
You just did an actual spit take.
Wait.
Yeah, like he straight up like he was tricked into butchering his family. It's very much like, if you're into Greek mythology, it's very similar to what happened to Hercules. Or Heracles, if you want to get super technical, where they were tricked by a god into murdering their family. Right.
Your Honor, I was tricked. Please.
Sorry, babe, I was tricked.
Oh yeah, no, it's like he sees them as enemies. Like he's actually like tricked. Like there's some deception going on.
It was just a prank, bro.
It was like, but it was all like it's all It was all like a plot. It was all a plot by Ares to get Kratos to be his general. He figured he could trick him and then be like, make it his, his penance, like to redeem himself. It's actually pretty deep.
Ooh. I knew it was a trick by Ares. I didn't know the reason why. Like why, but
yeah,
I guess,
he wanted Kratos to, like, Kratos was a Spartan and he was like a really good warrior, and basically like he was about to die on the battlefield and he sells his soul to go like on a rampage. And you got to play the game to find out though. That's pretty much why, like, you find out the Greek pantheon's a bunch of assholes, and that's pretty close to actual mythology.
Yeah, they're the worst. So he just never bathes?
Never sweats either.
Oh no, they're like, it's like permanently burnt into his skin.
It's magic, Q.
But also he probably doesn't ever bathe.
All right. Sorry, I'm digging.
He didn't just smudge it on him real quick.
It's burnt into like his flesh.
Well, Zach, do you want to talk about your experience with the game really quick?
Absolutely. So my experience with God of War is pretty significant. I've played almost every single game in the franchise. There's a couple like mobile games that I never bothered with because they're not like God of War. But when this came out, like in 2005, I was really into games like the Xbox version of Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry, just the hack and slash games, but you have to actually have some skill. And like God of War came out at that right time where it was like, okay, like I mess with this game plays cool. And I played it at a friend's house. Like when it came out, we got the whole way to Ares in the first game. And I remember my buddy just getting curb stomped. He's like, this game's impossible. This can't be done. I was like, hand me that controller. Let me daddy show you how it's done. Like at that point, I'd cut my teeth on like Ninja Gaiden Black, which is significantly harder than God of War, even on the hardest difficulties.
Such a damn good game, though.
Oh, absolutely. That could be a good candidate if I want to make you all suffer.
Well, I love suffering.
But anyway, back to God of War. Was a big fan. Going back to like when David Jaffe was the head creator. I knew him best from like Twisted Metal, which most of you probably played as kids. He used to be a pretty big figure at Sony, and God of War was his baby. Like a lot of people associate Cory Barlog with God of War, but he really didn't come into prominence on the franchise till God of War 2. He was the lead animator on the first one, and David Jaffe was like, it was his baby. It's what he did after they asked him, like, what do you want to do? You've done Twisted Metal. What do you want to do now? So that's what he did. And I've just been a big fan of his. But I've played most of the games. I think I didn't play Ascension, but I was just because it didn't look like God of War. It didn't look good. And then I remember
too.
I mean, it's a prequel, long-standing franchise. It's just a cash grab. But I remember when the trailer for God of War 2018 dropped at like E3 2016 or 17, whenever it was. I remember like the mixed reaction where people were like, wait, what? This is God of War? Like God of War's a hack and slash. What's this? Like, what's this Uncharted shit? Like, what's going on? Like, this isn't God of War. And I remember sitting there being like, oh, this is going to be fucking dope. Let's go. And, obviously picked it up day one. And then, we'll get into that later.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, so my experience is I had always known about the God of War series as a kid. Never played it. I don't know why I didn't play it. Like, I was going to say like, oh, my parents were like, oh, like too like it was, I was going to blame it on like strict parent Christian household upbringing. But that's not really the case because they let me play Mortal Kombat, and I didn't play God of War, but I did play a God of War clone. I don't know if anyone here has ever played Dante's Inferno.
Oh yeah, dude, Dante's Inferno.
What?
Fuck.
That ain't no clone. That game stands on its own.
I have never played the original God of War, so I don't know. I can't really say, but it seems like a lot of people call it a God of War clone. It's a very angry man working his way through a religious thing with badass weapons. I don't know.
I mean,
maybe it's not.
It's fair to say that it's a clone because it's clearly like, you know, you took something with you tried to add historical accuracy to a hack and slash game, so it's naturally going to draw comparisons. But it really does stand on its own. Like if you have the opportunity to play it, it's worth checking out. It's a little bit deeper than God of War as far as the combat goes.
Oh, maybe so. So that was my only. I mean, yeah. If any listeners are listening, if you try to play that game, it's pretty. By today's standards, got some nasty stuff in it. But this isn't a podcast about Dante's Inferno. So that was my only real experience with anything resembling God of War. I never really played it. I knew of it, what it was, and its reputation. And then God of War 2018 came out, and I was like, and saw a lot of positive reviews about like, oh, it's a good story, and it's like, you know, it's like emotive and stuff. And I was like, oh, good story, you say? I might cry, you say? Oh, well, that sounds great. And then I just picked it up, and I loved it. I've beaten it 2 times. The first time, I didn't platinum it because I didn't want to go find all the stupid crows, but I did everything else short of that, of 100%ing it. Like I beat all the Valkyries. I beat I beat all the trolls and shit. And then my wife, colloquially known as Mrs. Figgy, when we first got married, I was like, video games are art, okay? Like you gotta see this game. And we actually played through it on like ultra easy mode just to make it like more of like a story, more like a cinematic experience. And she really enjoyed it too. And then now I've played it for this podcast, and it is great. Every time I play it, I'm always like, oh, it's better than I remember. It does. It's a great game. Love it. Or maybe I don't. Maybe it's not going to be a GOAT. You don't know. I keep the mystery alive. So yeah. Speaking of how I feel about it, let's get into it. Let's start going through it, guys. How do we feel about this game? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you just want more mindless action? How do we feel about the game?
I loved it. Start to finish. Absolutely loved the game. I'm looking at a list because I want to say, like, for 2018, I want to say it was my favorite game. I'm trying to look and see what else came out that year. Red Dead Redemption 2 came out that year, but I think it came out late enough that it wasn't eligible for Game of the Year awards.
Gotcha.
But I'm not sure on that because I know like God of War Above and Beyond like ran away with all the Game of the Year awards. No, it looks like it was eligible, and it beat out Red Dead Redemption 2 for Game of the Year, which says a lot. Red Dead Redemption 2 is considered a GOAT game as well.
We'll probably be on this podcast at some point.
I mean, I'll dress up as a cowboy for it, but when it came to God of War,
for the game for that.
Just like the minute it booted up, I was hooked. Like I'm pretty sure I played for like 20 hours straight without stopping.
You're right though, Zach. The moment you turn the game on from the menu, like you don't even realize you're already immersed and you're in the game. And then you just have to hit let's go. And that same picture you're looking at, you just start swinging and you're knocking down a tree. Like you're already like in it. And it's so enveloping that just draws you in. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And like I feel like the shot starts from this, like you're looking up at Kratos. What it evokes for me is like the perspective of Atreus. Like you're looking up at this like huge godly figure, and the game starts, and you're like, and you hit start, and you're immediately in the continuous shot. Like the second beginning credits stop rolling, you're immediately in like the open, like the continuous shot that goes throughout the whole game. Let's start. Well, we're already talking about it. Let's start with the story, I guess. Or should we save the story for later, since that's kind of like the big like.
I think like maybe a good place to start would just be the gameplay changes. Because God of War was a hack and slash, over the top, violent and sexual game, and then we see this radical shift that a lot of people were kind of down on, where it's now more of an adventure game, an open world adventure game. The gameplay is pretty similar to what it was, but the story, they're trying to go down like the Naughty Dog school of, hey, we're going to tell you a story. Like, you're here for the story. Gameplay's secondary, but the gameplay is definitely very, very good.
Yeah. How do we feel about the Leviathan axe as a weapon? Oh, wait, hold on. Q has a very interesting perspective.
You mean the tool? The tool that you use for cutting down trees? Yeah, it was pretty handy.
Q, why don't you tell
artifact?
Why don't you tell the listener how you played this game really quick before?
I played this game as it was probably intended to be played. So you have this towering beastly hulk of a man who's super brawny and badass with these magnificent, powerful, meaty fists, which were made for punching. And he has these tools to, facilitate life, build his house, cut down trees, sharpen spears, whatnot. And I approached the game with my beautiful meaty hands whenever somebody needed pulverizing. So I would put my tools on my back and I just punched the shit out of everything. And it was so satisfying. And to my point, they would not make a game so damn satisfying to punch and kick and go Hulkamania on people if that wasn't their original intention. So sorry, not sorry, chat, who is now all my enemies and they hate me because on quote unquote, I ruined the game the way I played it. But I did what they said I couldn't do the whole time and I beat it. So
Q-Bait did the whole, essentially a challenge run on like unintentionally of only using his fists and never using the Leviathan axe or the Blades of Chaos, right? Did you not even, did you?
Big spoiler.
The second I got them, I was like, oh, these are really cool. And then I just put them away.
Don't you have to use them in the one spot though?
And
only to pull wind around.
Can you punch those enemies or?
Helheim.
So throughout my experience,
I don't know. I didn't do it.
Everyone kept telling me you have to use your weapons at some point. It's going to make you use your weapons. You can't kill this enemy or this enemy. And every time I figured out a way that you could, in fact, not use your weapons and kill everything, they just got more and more upset with me because I was right. So no, everything is killable with your
the game specifically tells you though. They're like, you can't use the axe. You got to go get something that could only kill the dead. So you have to go get the Blades of Chaos. But I guess they didn't know.
All that did was burn the bushes so I could get through passages.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you call the Blades of Chaos the garden shears. Chaos. Yeah. Okay. So the fist combat felt very good. Did anyone else have any thoughts on the rest of the combat? Besides the meaty fisting.
Let me say one more thing. So I will.
I'll
we can't say meaty fisting. I will say this though. I'm gonna go back and play because I want to play the game a few more times. It was that enjoyable, but I will go back and play it with my tools this time and upgrade those and use those. But I mean, that is a testament to how good the combat felt, where I was completely satisfied with punching the shit and kicking and, barrel rolling into people the whole time and ripping them in half and whatnot. That, it was really fun, good combat. I know I only experienced a third of it because I didn't use my other tools, but it was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, that is a good spin on your weirdness. Yeah, that the game is so well designed that like any way you go about playing it, like it has a good amount of focus, right? Like, like it's not like one of these RPG games where you could have, which is also great, but like where you could have like, I'm used to coming off of FromSoft games where it's like, well, I can play like 60 different ways. It's like we're gonna focus on three. There's also the runic things. There's a couple other things, but the three primary modes of combat, and each one it feels so satisfying and so distinct.
One thing I'll say is there's sort of three ways you can like fight people, but it's all very fluid too. Like you don't have to hit the menu and switch your weapons or something. It's all done with the touch of the button, and it's instantaneously too, which is definitely amazing. The way they handled that, because like each move set is so fleshed out And then it's just like, all right, now, like, I know when I was doing like the Valkyrie fights, it's just like I'm switching between all three things here. I'm chucking the axe, and then I got the fist, and then I get the blades going, and it's kind of just like a rinse and repeat type
you
of thing.
flow through fighting styles very organic.
Yeah, you feel as competent of a fighter as Kratos is. Like they just do such a good job of achieving the power fantasy of making you feel like an absolute behemoth expert fighter. Which is like some other games, like other games make you feel good because you have mastered it. Like your physical ability is the mastery and you feel cool. And that exists in this game too. I would say it's not as difficult. I mean, we can get into the difficulty as a separate topic, but what this game it does achieve is just making you feel like a brick shithouse. Like you just feel like an absolute badass. And like Steve said, you're just flowing between all these combat styles effortlessly and just wrecking shop. And if the system, I do think that there's some limitations to it that we can talk about in just a minute, but like as far as the feel of it, dear Lord, this game makes you feel good in everything that it does. Like, and that is like their primary, like they're not as concerned with like, I feel like depth of combat necessarily. And that, we can talk about that, but everything you're doing feels fantastic in this game.
After some fights, you're so hyped up. I wanted to go grab like a fully cooked 20-pound turkey and rip it in half because you just feel so bad. It makes you want to tear something in half. You're so pumped.
Yeah, like I was physically laughing at the end of from joy. Like at the at the end of the dragon fight when you finish off again, there's spoilers all throughout this podcast. Don't listen if you haven't played or don't want things spoiled for you. But when you finish off the dragon mid-game or the first third of the game or whatever, and like you bring the crane down and the dragon lands perfectly enveloping, framing Kratos in its maw. Like, I was like, yes! Like, it's just so good.
I made my chat eat shit after that dragon fight because they didn't believe I could kill it with my hands, and it felt so good.
I think I may be the dissenting opinion on the combat because I didn't really like it much. Like, it's clearly good combat. It just I guess a part of it is I went in expecting a character action game. Like, I really love games like Bayonetta or Nier, where they're like the type of game that Zach was talking about. It's a hack and slash, but it has a level of skill to it. And like those tend to have like a very fast gameplay, and this feel more deliberate to me. It almost is a little bit of like a midpoint between like a hack and slash and like a Souls game in a way, because like you do have to be very deliberate about the way that you move in it, which like was not what I was looking for, I guess. So like I actually ended up liking the combat of the original God of War a lot better, apart from the fucking quick time events, which are awful. But like in as far as like the actual fights, I found a lot of this, and it's probably just like I'm not very good at that type of combat. So a lot of the times I just be like kiting back using the axe throw and bring it back. Now I did handicap myself accidentally for like 2/3 of the game up until you get to that like giant frozen giant. I hadn't realized that I could level up.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because I'd gone to that screen, but that screen has so it shows like what you get if you select the power up, but then it also shows a bonus that you get, but you have to have a certain amount of like arcane or whatever. And all my brain saw was you have to have a certain amount of arcane to use this. So I was like, oh well, I don't have 100 arcane, so why am I going to put points in this?
Oh geez.
So I went very far through the game. Even after I got stuff, it definitely felt a lot better after I unlocked stuff. But it still just like didn't connect with me in the same way that like the faster, just like have fun combat of 1 did.
Gotcha. So you feel like it was neither like mindless and like quick and fast and just like hack and slashy enough to be fit that box, but also not like in depth and like skilled enough to be like a Dark Souls kind of like box. Am I understanding? Like,
I mean, like it could even, I don't know that I would say it's not in depth enough to be like Dark Souls, because I actually do like there is a lot of depth to the combat. It's just that's not my taste as much. And like Dark Souls also gives you a couple things. Like, one, there's different types of weapons that you can use. Here you have 3 different options. So if one of them is not like cutting it for you, then like it's not going to work. And then like
except the fists,
yeah,
which work in every scenario.
Yeah, you just played
and
it wrong.
then with Dark Souls 2, you can do what I have always done to get through them, which is grind until you're over leveled, to like just barely make your way through. So yeah, I don't know. Because with this game, like enemies wouldn't respawn, at least as far as I could tell. Like if I went back, unless it was a directed, like, you know, like if the story makes you go back through somewhere you've been before, enemies will respawn. But other than that, once you've killed someone, they're dead for forever. So like there isn't really a lot of ways to like grind the game if you're stuck in a spot in order to try and use levels to get through. And even if there was, like when you unlock abilities, they tend to be more things like it's going to flesh out what moves you have available rather than like give you more HP or make you more powerful, which is all attached to the armor, which is its own weird system.
Well, that brings up. Oh, so wait, really quick vibe check. What difficulty did everyone play it on? This for this playthrough?
I played normal.
Normal. Did everyone do standard difficulty?
I played normal.
I bumped it up 1. I forget what it was called, but I played slightly above normal.
Give me a challenge, I think is what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what I played too. I know there's Give Me God of War, which sounded miserable. I didn't do that. I did whatever the one below that was.
Yeah. So I feel like
because they gave you like 4 warning, like before I hit it, and I was like, I'm doing it. And then it was like there was like 4 warning screens. It was like, are you really sure you want to do this? You can't change it if you do this. Are you sure you want to do this?
You kind of strike us as a pansy. Are you sure about this? Like,
yeah. And you know what? I'm honestly glad I did do it though, because at the beginning of the game on whatever the second hardest one is, it's tough. Like without like your shit upgraded or whatever, it's a tough game. There were times where like I would wussy out on it, and I would just be like, "This is too difficult," and I would bump it back down, and then I bump it back up, and that was the first time I've ever done that on, like I said, all the other God of Wars I'd played on intense or whatever it was, but this was like, I don't know. I'm not doing damage. Like, what's the issue?
I started on that difficulty, the one just above or just under, like the hardest one. And then I realized after a couple hours in, I was like, I don't think I'm going to beat this game anytime soon if I don't just have a casual experience. So I bumped it down to just regular and then got through it.
Yeah, it does get easier the more you level up and everything.
Yeah.
And it's probably like I couldn't imagine playing it on normal at that point, because I feel like it would have just been a bit too simple, if that makes sense. But you know, maybe I just like was over leveled or something. I don't remember.
No, you're right. I played it on standard difficulty until right before Modi and I forget the other one's name, Modi and whatever, Thor's babies. And I was like struck, and I was beelining it through the game. So again, like I've beaten the game almost in its entire. I've almost 100%ed it previously, but for this playthrough, I was like, I really just want to focus on the main game and the story, and you know, just for the podcast, I don't need 100% it. I don't think. And I was struck at how easy it generally was. It took me a while. I was just coming off of a Dark Souls game, so I had to like reorient my brain a little bit to the timing of things and stuff. But once you get going on standard difficulty, it felt really easy to me. And I did no searching for upgrades. Literally was just going from like checkpoint to check. Like I was just following the yellow ticker on the thing like the whole time. And I was like just plowing through everything. And I'm not an amazing gamer. Like I'm okay at video games. I'm not like that's not like a brag. It's the game doesn't, the standard difficulties seemed pretty easy. When I upped it to the next level up, it felt like a pretty significant jump. The enemies were a lot beefier and I died a lot more. But yeah, so So Zach, any general thoughts about the combat? Because I want to talk about the RPG systems in it before, but any general thoughts on just the feel of it or the difficulty? Any kind of general thoughts on the gameplay before we move on to the more nitty gritty?
Yeah, the best way I could summarize it is that, when you look at the original games, what they were going for was more of like a frantic hack and slash, where this feels more deliberate. It also feels more visceral and brutal, which is kind of weird to say because the gore's toned down, but like the combat feels, more brutal. And I kind of got like a vibe that they were trying to do like, The Last of Us, but God of War, as far as like the combat goes, which,
it just feels more grounded.
Yeah. I don't hate it. But I just I find that you need to find a good balance where the combat itself feels a little too simple at times. Like for a game like what they were going for, I feel like they could have expanded on the combat, maybe get into a really deep combo system, see what you could chain together. Cause that was kind of a thing in the original games is that, you could chain kills. So, why not go into really, really chaining really deep combos. Other games would let you do things like you could switch weapons in mid combo, stuff like that. But I didn't hate it. I thought the Leviathan axe was very fun to play with. But I also don't think once I got the Chaos Blades, I don't think I went back. I thought the Chaos Blades felt way more fun to play with.
I agree.
Yeah, they did. It felt like a huge reward to get the Chaos Blades.
From a technical standpoint, I think what they were able to achieve with the Leviathan axe is really cool. It's fun. Just visually, it's fun to watch. But it's just it's God of War. Give me them Chaos Blades. I just want to go slice and dice.
Yeah. And I feel like not only the Chaos Blades do they move entirely different, but so I kind of liked the grounded realism of the combat. Personally, I liked the kind of what you were talking about, being slow and deliberate, and you feel like you're bringing an axe down into an enemy, into flesh, and when you rip them, I mean, it's a great point about it technically being less violent, but it still feels almost more violent. I haven't played the old one, so I don't want to speak to it, but it's because it's so slow and deliberate. It's because you're not mowing down mobs. It's because you're physically ripping apart an enemy, and the camera is so close and intimate. It's not this zoomed out, no pun intended, God view of of the violence. It's you're watching viscera. And a game that was, and I feel in a game that would explicitly be oh, isn't that so badass? But I feel it almost kind of highlights Kratos's violent nature. It does more to kind of bring out look at what you're doing. This is Kratos. He calls himself a monster, and it kind of brings that out. But then the Chaos Blades kind of goes back more. You don't do that as much. The Chaos Blades, if they go back more to feeling oh, I'm just blistering through enemies, whatever, they're just chattel. I'm just going through. It removes the gritty kind of grounded realism of the axe. Whereas the axe, you feel the heaviness, the weight of what you're bringing the axe down. You go back to more they're just guys, with the Chaos Blades, I feel so you kind of get a little bit of both. And the game, and Kratos isn't psyched about the Chaos Blades when he has to get them. Maybe that's not how it should feel. I don't know. I'm probably reading too much into it, but
I mean, if you think you're reading into it, the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm why an axe? And I was just Kratos is a blunt instrument. What's an axe?
Exactly. Yeah.
A blunt instrument. I'm am I reading too much into that?
Maybe not. I mean,
it's obviously they don't want to use a hammer because Thor.
Right. Yeah, got that market cornered.
It's why an axe? And it's just well, it's technically pre-Viking when it takes place, but war axes were a big Viking weapon,
Yeah.
So, thematically it fits.
Yeah. Now, yeah, so what I feel the gameplay's shortcoming for me, it was a little easy, but not every game has to be. I mean, on standard difficulty, it was a little easy. And then when I upped the difficulty, it's the combat didn't get harder. It's just enemies just one-shot you. Again, without having doing upgrades and stuff. Again, I was just beelining it through. I was this isn't, the feel of it isn't harder. It's just that when I get hit, I just, I just get one shot.
You do less damage.
Yeah, and you do less damage. It's just like
Mhm.
they're bullet sponges or axe sponges, I guess. And
Yeah.
and I am like a frail little like
Yeah, it was
you know,
kind of like I said at the beginning, it was kind of aggravating because it was just like, this is stupid. Like, I don't have any armor, I don't have anything, and they're just like one-shotting me, and I'm hitting them. I'm just like running around like a moron, like just throwing the axe at people and trying to stay alive that way. It's but by the end, like the Valkyries, I don't know, like the Valkyries for the people that don't know are like there's like what 12 of them, I believe.
6 of them.
7. There's 7 of them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. But they're the hardest enemies in the game. And I know, like, Valkyrie number 3 took me like a week to beat. And then, like, there's supposed to be the Queen Valkyrie. But at that point, you're all juiced up and everything and ready to go. And I beat Queen Valkyrie on, like, I don't know, first try, second try, third try, like something like that, where it was just like I'm used to them at this point, and it was just a bit easy by then. But definitely at the beginning, it was, like you said, they're just axe sponges, the enemies, and they just one shot you. And it's like, all right, this is kind of stupid.
Yeah, it's not a great way of increasing difficulty. But yeah, and so okay, the thing that kind of bothered me about the game, and I remember this, again, I was doing kind of a streamlined like idiot playthrough of this one, but my first playthrough when I was like very in depth in it, I felt the same ways. I feel like this game could have done with either a lot less or maybe even zero like RPG like stat increasing mechanics. I feel like the combat didn't really, it wasn't like as good as the combat feels. I think several of you have already said, like, it wasn't super like in depth necessarily. Like I didn't feel like, again, like a I gotta think of other points of reference besides FromSoft games, but like where it's like you're firing on all cylinders, figuring out what you need to do when, like, you can kind of just like jam the same combo over and over again. And so I feel like the RPG mechanics were way too involved and complicated to warrant for what this combat warranted. Now, if you had a game that like had as like intense and in depth of combat as like some other titles, like, yeah, okay, we'll go nuts, go off. But like, I feel like this game could have like either simplified or reduced or straight up done away with a lot of the RPG mechanics. But then you have to like, well, then, you have to warrant having an open world, I guess, for stuff to go quest for. But I feel like the mechanics, I feel like this playthrough, when I was trying to get through it quickly, I was literally just not even paying attention to it. I was like, whatever, I don't care. I actually read somewhere that the most important thing is to make sure that the number of your armor, like, because it goes like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, is higher, and that'll do more than all the actual upgrading. And so like that, like, I don't know, like, and I feel like they don't do a good, like, I never felt the upgrades. Yeah, the Leviathan axe felt stronger when I would upgrade that, but I never felt the upgrade of an armor. I never felt the upgrade of like a talisman or whatever, really. Some of the abilities are nice. Like, I liked to upgrade Atreus because a lot of his stuff is pretty passive and I didn't have to think about it. But the RPG mechanics weren't really doing anything for me. The numbers and the minutia of upgrading each stat. There's some games where I get into that super hardcore. In this game, I just like, I don't need this. I can just hack and slash my way through it. Hack and slashing, that feels good, but ultimately, as much as they want to gussy it up as being something more, it still felt kind of like, I'm just gonna whack these people with my axe and my blades and call it a day. Like,
it felt like, I mean, combat was fairly simplistic, and I think it almost feels like by design, the driving force of this game was the narrative. And they
absolutely
design combat around just in pushing the narrative. So it was it's less about the fighting and the punching. That's just the next conveyor belt to continue through the story. So you have these moments of brutal, slower action combat, fairly simplistic, to just drive the point across when you need to get violent to then start pushing your narrative. Because, you look at Dark Souls games, the overall driving force of those games is the intricacy of the combat. Like, that is what people love. I mean, there is plenty of lore and deep lore in Dark Souls, but that's not, you don't have these cut scenes and dialogues, interactions back and forth like you're watching a film or a movie or something. So Dark Souls is so much stronger and more responsive and in-depth with their combat, whereas this game didn't really rely on that or need that to happen. That's just something that's also added into it. But because of that, it was a little bit simplistic. I felt like they definitely could have spent more time on unique animations, especially the kill moves.
That was one of my things. Yes.
Because at some point it felt like, okay, I've had my fun for the first 3 minutes of fighting. Time to just end this so I can continue being engrossed in the story, because it was just very repetitive, and the same animation 8 times in a row of ripping somebody in half. Maybe next time, depending on what angle you grab them at, it's a different type of execution or something.
Well, there's
that.
like one of two a lot of times with a Draugr. Like it's like you either rip them in half or you get the curb stomp.
Yeah.
And the first time you curb stomp a Draugr feels amazing. The 200th time, and it's just like a nuisance.
Yeah. So I think between spicing up the combat, but it seems deliberately less, it's more intentional with your kills because it's slower and more brutal, but it still gets repetitive. And then, as far as the intricacy of the combat, it was a little bit slow and sloppy at times, like responsiveness of parries, things like that. Going from one animation into holding your shield up sometimes it would feel clunky, or it just wouldn't be responsive. So that was a little bit difficult at times to deal with. And that's also coming from, we spoiled with Dark Souls, which is how their combat is so intricate and so responsive. Problems here and there, but overall it's one of the greatest, response type combat systems that you can ever play.
Yeah, and my issue with it is I am fine with simple combat. That is fine. I am also fine with really great in-depth combat that really challenges your reflexes and your knowledge. I just feel like pick one. I feel like they gussied up a relatively simple combat system with a bunch of unnecessary numbers I feel like the RPG system does not serve the combat. It serves being an open world. They need you to we want this experience of being in a boat, which that experience is great. We can talk about that in a little bit. But we need to put things in these places, so we got to have all this upgrade system that it's kind of a catch-22.
I would say, as far as the combat goes, they kind of go hand in hand, but I felt like the lack of enemy variety really kind of
that's what I was going to talk about.
It makes the combat feel a little lacking. I mean, it is what it is. I get it. You're on a time constraint. You have to do certain things, but it felt like all the major enemy types you see within the first 2 hours of the game.
Exactly.
And this isn't a short game. By the time you hit hour 5, I don't think you see anything new.
Exactly.
As far as your regular enemies go. And I feel like had they had the ability to go and put different varieties in it, maybe the combat would feel better. It's not that the combat is bad. It starts to feel repetitive, when you're fighting the same ogres, trolls, Draugr over and over again.
Yeah, 100%. That was going to be one of my next points. Yeah, they and it's such a whiny, it's so easy for us to be they need more. It's well, you guys aren't making it.
No, that's why I had the caveat. Obviously
100%.
There's budgetary and time constraints. This is an insanely detailed game world. And it's weird to say now because it's a PS4 game. For a PS4 game. This looked cutting edge.
Still does, I think. I mean, I'm playing on PS5 and it looks amazing.
One other purely mechanical thing that I think would have made a really big difference for me is that they put running on the most finicky button on the whole controller. Because to run, you have to push down on the joystick button, which
I hate that.
is so finicky. Yeah, it's so annoying. We've had the technology to sense how far you're pushing on the controller to run for so long So I did the first couple Valkyrie fights, and the first one that I ran into, I slammed my head against that for 5 hours before I beat it. And my thumb hurt so bad the next day because in those fights, you're constantly having to start and stop running, which meant that I was constantly having to push that little thumbstick button. But even apart from just being not ergonomically nice, it makes the controls for the combat, because sometimes you need to be over there fast, kind of more finicky than I think they should be.
Yeah. And I'll just mention this really quick. I did not like the puzzles. Generally
They're
speaking,
terrible. Yeah.
bad puzzles.
The X here, yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, honestly, I feel like the only reason they exist is to pad out game length.
Yeah.
yep.
Like, it's to make you stop and, waste 10, 15 minutes here and there. Like, they did not need to be in this game.
Yeah, the only time they're challenging is not when the puzzle requires you to think through something. It's when like a necessary piece that you need to figure it out is not clear in the environment. So
Yeah.
you'd like run into puzzles and be wandering around for like half an hour. Like, I'm like slowly hauling crystals between crystal points and having Atreus shoot them and seeing, does this fix anything? And it doesn't. And then like finally like, oh, there was a hole over here that I've never seen one like it before, but Atreus has to go through it. And there's nothing in the environment to like make it glow or anything like it might in another game, which I mean, I get they want it to like not feel like a game, but at the same time, and like,
they want it to not feel like a game, but then also Atreus is like constantly giving you hints about puzzles that like the stuff that like is hard to see, like you're saying, is not signposted well. But then the other stuff where it's like, you need to lower this bridge, the thing's right there. Atreus is like, we need to lower the bridge. Do you think of a way to get it down?
If it's super obvious, he'll point it out. But if it's like that, then he like doesn't help at all.
Yeah, and I didn't really care for like the blue glowy chest puzzles. I called them Blue's Clues puzzles, where you have to look around the screen like I Spy for like the little like pots and stuff. There was one puzzle at the towards the end in Tyr's temple when you're like wrapped up in the vines and like you have to like move the sun and moon in a way. And I was like, oh, this is a real puzzle. Like I'm actually like here at the end. Yeah, it's like here at the end of all things when I'm about to die, and this is when you want to give me a real puzzle. But yeah, generally I thought the puzzles were kind of weak. Not the focus of the game.
I thought they were fun. I enjoyed all the puzzles, but they felt completely unnecessary because I'd walk into one, even seeing one for the first time, just kind of take 30 seconds to stop moving and look around. I'm like, okay, got it, and then you just boom, 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 throw some stuff around and then run through. Like it was very unnecessary, very quick. They weren't difficult. You didn't have to think about it. Except that one Tyr's Temple was really fun. And you're right. The ones where you had to hit the bells with the glowing runes on them were just annoying. I was like, oh my God, where is this stupid one? I'm walking around up and down the mountain looking in the cracks for the
Yeah. So they could have probably done without those. I mean, yeah. But yeah, I feel like they were a small enough thing in the game to where if you want to, you can ignore them, which I did in some cases. I was like, I don't want to find this other Blue's Clue. I'm going to move on. Like, but for those who are like adamant about doing, don't introduce puzzles if they're not going to be satisfying. But unless, as Zach said, unless you're trying to pad out length, which I don't want to be like too negative and say that's what they did, but that is kind of a little bit what
it feels like. And the game's long already. Like, did it really need it? Like, I feel like this is a problem with modern game design where length is associated with value. And I would rather pay, I would happily pay, $60 to $70 for a well curated 10 to 12 hour game
100%
than spend $60 to $70 playing a 70-hour game that does not respect my time.
Absolutely. And that's such a common sentiment. I feel like maybe because I hang out around a bunch of old people. Maybe like when you're young, you want an 80-hour experience, but like, yeah, padding out like game's length for game's length's sake is so annoying.
Sure. Like I definitely get it. Like when I was a kid, I got to buy like one game every couple of months. So back then it was like I'd go for JRPGs because like I'm gonna get a 60 to 70-hour game for $40 to $50. Let's go.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, look, I am an adult. I have means. Like I want to experience as much as I can. And like I will put 100 hours into a game. Like I put 100 hours into Elden Ring, no problem. But I felt that game respected my time. Versus something like Breath of the Wild, I felt didn't really respect my time.
Yeah.
Still a good game, but like I was like there were parts where I was like, oh my God, like this is ridiculous.
I think
so I don't like it when games pad things artificially, but there are multiple reasons why they have to do it. Like it's a shareholder thing. It's like, hey, look, we made this game on this budget. We gave you a 60-hour game on this budget. And then it comes to the value proposition for the customer, but I think that's very split, like you said, Figgy, where it's like, if you're, some people are going to go nuts. Like, yeah, I got my money's worth. And then you got people like us that are going to be like, dude, come on. Like, I just want to roll credits and go on to the next game.
All right. Anything else to say about the gameplay that before we move on? I'm going to move us along to the next thing if we have nothing else to say about the gameplay.
Satisfied.
Smoke a cigarette.
Let's talk about the visuals, guys. How did this game look?
It's gorgeous. Until The Last of Us Part 2 came out, it was probably the best looking console game.
Yeah, it has the full weight and might of Sony behind it, and clearly it shows. From a technical perspective, I feel like it's just, everything from the environments to the armor, I feel like is all like beautifully, intricately done. Kratos's beard looks good, like in the PS5.
Oh, yeah.
Like he has like beard physics. Like it's like,
like the effects on the Leviathan axe when you use it, like all the particle effects look great. When you kill enemies and they explode into elements, that shit looks great. Just the world that you're in. When you go to, what is it? You go to like 6 of the Norse mythological realms. I think it's 6. Like they have similarities, so you can tell like, yeah, like this is Norse, but they feel different enough where they look good. The environments themselves look great. And then just like from a technical perspective, granted, I can't speak to playing it on a base PS4. I've only ever played this game on a PS4 Pro and a PS5. I had no technical issues, ran like a dream even back in the day on a PS4 Pro. Like, yeah, it was like 30 frames per second, but it was pinned.
Yeah.
It never felt like it dropped. And then on the PS5, it was just like, oh, this is butter.
And it looks really good on PC too.
Oh, nice. Good. You played on PC. That's good.
Yeah.
It really was breathtaking. It was beautiful. Every time you'd reach like a new ledge or on a mountain or go to a new environment in a different world, you just have to stop and you're like, wow, just let it soak in. And then that combined with, the audio of the game, fairly well done. It was, just the ambient sounds. And one of the moments I remember, I'm in the boat, rowing like through the lake, and I'm going through a cave, and I realize while Mimir is talking and telling a story,
yep,
the second we move into the cave, the audio completely changes, and you can hear his voice bouncing off the walls, and everything's echoey. And then I would go between, like, there would be like a spot of sunlight through the cave, and we'd hit it, and then it would go back. It would stop echoing when I'm in an open space, and then go back into the cave. And even the row of the boat that you could hear was just the intentional design of the environment interacting with the audio was a really nice touch. It was so immersive and beautiful.
Yeah, they do such a good job of putting you in a space with the visuals and the audio. Steve, Rob, anything you want? Any thoughts on the visuals?
Yeah, I agree. They were amazing. They were incredible. It's probably one of the strongest things about the game. I thought was the visuals and the sounds and everything. It's quite the tease to put the some of the realms that you can't go to.
I know, fucking
in the game, and because it's just like the other ones are like so cool and pretty. It's like, well, why can't I go to these ones?
Wouldn't you like to go to Asgard?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I was so pissed.
But what they gave you was great, and I definitely have no complaints. I just played it on the original PS4 too, like the launch day PS4 system, and I had no complaints. I am like kind of salty that the Ragnarok's like also coming out on PS4. I wish it was just like PS5, but just because I want to see what they could do with it,
Exactly.
Like, I want to see them push like the limits even more, but
and I just want to feel better than other people who don't have one. I mean, I don't really care about
it's not even that.
That's 100% it for me. I can't speak to you, Steve, but I just want to feel better than other people.
Yeah,
like that's
true.
No, it's like I just like after getting my hands on the Last of Us remake and playing through it, I'm just like, why? I want to see a curated experience. Because we got a tease. We had Ratchet and Clank or Rift Apart, and if you haven't played it and you have a PS5, go check it out. Probably not going to be a game that makes the podcast, but from a technical perspective, it's mind blowing. Like, it's like, holy shit, the stuff that you're doing is great.
I was
also really
so upset when I found out it was coming out on PS4. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, this is a game that was so good looking on the PS4, and now you're having whole new hardware and everything." I would have loved to see.
So, getting back to the game, one other thing I want to mention about the visuals, and this kind of goes into story section of our little breakdown, but the motion capture, the face capture of the acting is incredible. Again, I remember it being good, but I don't know if it's because I'm playing on a PS5 or just, you know, my memory is foggy, but like the emotion you get from these actors is so good.
Oh, absolutely.
And goes such a long way of selling the story. Not that they need to. They could have like had it be a text story and it would have been great, but like it goes such an extra layer deeper of just selling this amazing story and writing that.
Well, there's, you know, like obviously Christopher Judge's Kratos is legendary.
I know. I'm going to talk about him.
Performance. You know, like he is Kratos. Like his voice is just so, like when you hear it, it's just like daddy.
That is what my voice sounds like to me in my head. So when you like, that is what I believe I sound like. So
oh yeah, that's my inner voice is definitely definitely Christopher Judge as Kratos.
It's not like it's an actual audio hallucination for me. Like you guys hear my voice, and you're like, "Hi, I'm Figgy," but in my head, it's like, "I'm Figgy." Like that's just boying my way through. Just boy.
You know, that was kind of a small point of contention when in the pre-release for the game. Was like Christopher Judge's voicing Kratos, the actor, because you know he wasn't the original voice. You know, he sound pretty similar.
I don't care.
No, I don't give a shit.
He sounds great.
You know, but he had been doing video games for a while. But he was in Def Jam Vendetta, the Def Jam fighting game. He obviously did like a Stargate video game because he was on Stargate. But he worked a lot with Blizzard and did background voices for like World of Warcraft and all that. So it wasn't like, oh no, like what's going on? Like you're getting an actor. You know, this was a guy that was in the space, but you know, even beyond that, like everybody in the game does a great job. Like,
yeah, every actor.
Like one of the few games where I feel like there were no miscasts at all. And then you get the legendary, you know, first Thor's sons, Modi and Magni, are Nolan North and Troy Baker, who, you know,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You know, that's Nolan North and Troy Baker. Like that's
as
so
side
cool
characters.
That, you know, yeah, you know, they work together on all kinds of stuff for like Naughty Dog. They're both legends in the industry in their own right.
Yeah, they're the voice actors that like they are on every game you've ever liked that has voice acting pretty much. I didn't realize that was them. Yeah, just the voice side, just the acting in general was incredible. And we can use that to springboard onto audio, which Q's already kind of talked about. But yeah, the voice acting is just and like it's impeccable. I mean, yeah, like I don't know what else to say besides it's good. It's just every aspect of this game just has polish. Like
the acting was, I think that is what this game was more than the story. It was the acting. The acting throughout. You know, the story was secondary compared with the acting, which is what sold it. It was that is where I was truly like so sold on this franchise, or at least on this game, and so impressed. Like it had the story was simple, nothing too crazy. Bringing in like the Norse mythology and some of that old history and stuff was really, really cool and awesome and fun. But the acting is what just, I was blown away. It was, there was, the progression of just the character arc progression that you can see through body language was amazing. You know, you start off with Kratos being so distant from his son, so cold, and you know, I'm just here to make sure you can survive and be tough. And it starts off with him basically almost never looking at his kid, and
He can't even touch him.
He points at things, and then and as it progresses, you see he slowly starts reaching out with his hand and is, you know, about a foot away from like consoling his son or showing some affection, and then you see him pull back, and then eventually, you know, he lands like a hand on his kid's shoulder, and
that simple act is so emotionally powerful because of the way that
it was so powerful. And I think one of the best moments of the whole game that I thought was so good, and it really was so immersive and gave chills, was after Atreus got sick and Kratos, you can see everything about him, like from the smallest little flinches and twitches in his face and his body language. You could see he was so distraught, but couldn't say anything about it. And when he gets in that boat and he's like going off on his own mission while the kid stays back with Freya, you know, it's just complete silence. He's like, I think at this point he already had Mimir on his back.
Yes, he did. Yes.
And Mimir can even like sense, and he's not like really speaking, and you can see Kratos like the pain in his eyes, and he's, you know, holding it all back, and he's just slowly rowing in complete silence, and you can feel the tension in the room. And it was just so good because this is the first time you really see Kratos like a different side of him. And
afraid.
It was amazing. It was the acting was so well done, and it's the stuff that wasn't said which really drives home how powerful the story is.
So we're barreling we keep barreling towards talking about the story. But one thing I just want to mention about the audio too was the music is fantastic. Specific
Bear McCreary can score anything as far as I'm concerned.
Bear McCreary.
Hire Bear McCreary.
He's so good. Like specifically all the choral arrangements. Like they have these several motifs that come in where like whenever they want to emphasize Kratos, he has his own motif with this like rumbling bass choir. And then like whenever the mother's influence comes in, you get the mother's theme play, like usually like a singular aria by this like one beautiful like female lead singer. And then later when Kratos kind of comes clean about what he is to Atreus, you kind of get they restate the God of War theme, which is like normally all imposing and scary, but they do it with a like kind of a higher pitched choir, and they resolve the harmony in a way where it's like sounds nice and pretty and resolved to kind of symbolize Kratos coming to terms with who he is, and you know, bringing that to Atreus. It's just it's not just fun music. It's like they do so much with motifs and weaving motifs in and out of each other to like tell an audio story like underneath this like amazing, this really well done other story that's not audio, normal story.
All of the cinematic components of it, the sound, the acting, it's all top notch in terms of like that. Even like, I mean, we touched on it, like the camera work. It's a game that has camera work.
Oh, we didn't talk about the vision. We didn't talk about the camera so much.
We like briefly touched on it, but yeah, like yeah, like everything about the cinematic component of the experience is masterful, and I agree with Q. Like the acting is the real sell for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
Steve, any thoughts on the audio before we talk about what everyone keeps trying to steer us to talk about, which is the story and the acting and the experience of it?
You know, there's not really like memorable songs or anything in it, at least from my perspective. But
it's not a catchy tune. Nothing in it's catchy. You're not humming like walking down the street.
But yeah, no, they did good with the audio.
All right.
Can we talk about the story, please? Because I just want to talk about the story.
Yeah, let's get to what this game is actually all about. The hokey pokey. No, the story. Okay. So, guys, so this is, we've been dancing around it. We keep trying to talk about the visuals and we end up talking about the story. We talk about the audio, we end up talking about the story. We talk about the gameplay, we end up talking about the story. This game's story is, I think, an achievement in video game storytelling. I don't think it's perfect. I have some qualms personally, but does anyone want to open up the floor talking about what they liked, what they didn't like about the story? Anything specifically noticed?
I feel like I'm in a minority here. I wasn't for it. I don't know. I feel like they play with your emotions more than they play with the plot more. I do think it's very intriguing. I think this is the most intriguing part of the game, and how they tease little things about his past. That I felt like was the most intriguing part to me. But in terms of like the plot and the goal, it's like, oh, you got to get to the top of the mountain. And it's like, why? And it's like, because that's what the wife wanted. She just wanted her ashes spread on top of the mountain. And I don't know. It didn't really stick with me. That being said, the journey to get there is very good. But I feel like this game does this weird thing where I've never experienced it like this before. But I felt like the game was just like incomplete in a way. And I know that's because they have part 2 coming, and that's obvious. But it really just kind of like left you hanging a little bit, and not like cliffhanger. I just mean like in terms of the whole game too. You know, like I said earlier,
You didn't
like
feel satisfied.
Yeah, the realms. You know, it's like, oh, you can go pick here. Oh, but you can't. It's like, well, why would you?
Yeah, why would you do this to me?
Yeah, why would you even like, offer that? There's people, back in the day, I think of myself back in the day, it's like, I'm looking up like cheat codes, like how do you get here? There's gotta be a way to get here. And like, there's not, it's just like not in the game. It just feels incomplete in a way. And like I said, the way it ended too was just kind of, it just kind of ended. And
I can relate a lot with.
It felt like, certain games, like, okay, obviously they're making a sequel, but like this game, it really felt like it just wasn't over. It just kind of
like it just starting.
Yeah. I agree with that. And
like
I don't know.
It feels like you're in the prologue the whole time. Like you're in the prologue, and then the story doesn't really start. Really, I'd say it probably doesn't start until you go inside Jormung. God, I'm gonna butcher this. Jormungunder's the snake, the world snake. Like that's when it starts. When you go inside, like when you go inside, that's when it really starts to pick up.
And I know, like the old trilogy, like God of War 2 left on a cliffhanger too. But like, where that left on a
big cliffhanger, like a big cliffhanger.
Yeah, but it still felt like it ended the story, and you could tell where the direction was going. This just kind of
petered out.
Yeah, it kind of missed it for me. It just didn't feel like a complete game in a sense. I like I said, I'm probably in a minority there.
No, I mean, I know the feeling you are talking about. I have thoughts in response to that, but I know the feeling you are talking about.
And I know they tease a little bit for like the second game and everything, like with the boy being like part giant and everything.
He's Loki.
Yeah. And that was interesting. And it was also, like the biggest part that stuck with me was the end when he like pulls back the curtain and there's just like the boy killing Kratos.
Yeah.
Like that was like, whoa. Like that was kind of
what is like the prophecy?
Yeah. And that's very intriguing. But in terms of just like the whole overall plot and everything, it just, I don't know. Like the game ended and like literally at the end they just went back home and it's just like, okay.
Yeah. So, does anyone else have any thoughts relating to that?
I really liked the story. I agree that like there's a lot in the middle of the story that like is not doing a lot, but like the start of the story is really strong. And I actually like the goal of mom is dead. She asked us to take her ashes to the highest place anywhere. And our journey is to get there. And then it turns out to be a lot more complicated than we thought it would be as like a premise for a story, because there's like a built-in emotionality there of dealing with the loss of a loved one. And then of course, also like it ties very well into the story of Kratos slowly like learning and opening up to his son. And I think, I mean, like, obviously we're going to talk spoilers here. Like,
yeah, no. Oh, spoilers. I can put a thing at the front if need be. Like these podcasts are going to be inherently spoilerly. I don't want to hedge our discussion.
It should be a given.
Yeah, should be.
You know, if you're here, it's because you played the game and you're like, all right, let's see what these idiots have to say.
Yeah,
but yeah, like the you go from the start of the game where Kratos is like, you're not going to carry your mother's ashes, to the point where he trusts Atreus enough at the end that he'll let Atreus carry his mother's ashes, like the last leg of the journey. And I feel like the story does a really good job of like that emotional arc between the two of them. And like that segment in the middle where Kratos thinks that Atreus is maybe going to be lost to him, like really opening his eyes up about how he has to be more open, and then getting reinforced again when they see, the confrontation between Freya and Balder serving as like, it's not an exact mirror of Kratos and his son, but it works enough as a mirror to him for him to be like, here's my story. This is what I haven't been telling you, but this is what it is. And like, I want to be open with you because I'm changed now, but I also need you to be better than me. And I mean, like, I'm not saying there's no parts in the middle that don't work. Like, a big one for me is like the second that Atreus learns he's a god, he's just like, oh my God, fuck everyone.
I have a whole point about that. Yes.
But yeah, I actually really loved the ending. So
yeah. Zach, how did you feel about the story? What do you want? Go off.
I mean, I absolutely love the story. Like obviously the biggest parallel you can draw from like just an outline point of view is like, this is God of War meets The Last of Us. It's the story threads are the same. It's about the journey of fatherhood. Whereas, The Last of Us is more about loss and, recovering from the loss of a child. God of War is about, discovering that relationship with your child. And, Cory Barlog outlined like, the big motivation for this game was I had a son and this is what I went through. Like the fear of being a new father, the fear of failing with your children, the fear that your children will make your same mistakes. And those story beats pop up. And while I wouldn't say the story is overly complex, it doesn't need to be. It's a simple story. It's a very simple premise. And I think it's told well. I like that it starts out and it's kind of low stakes. You're like, wait, what? They're just going to go to a mountain and spread some ashes. It's basically just chance that it's just random chance that's not what happens. That you find out that, they find, what's his name? Balder figures out that, oh, this guy is something not human. He beats Seven Shades shit out of him. He gets back up and he's just like, okay, this is intriguing. And that's, when the bigger plot really starts to materialize. But I just thought, it's very character driven. And that's where I think a lot of people fall in love with this game, is that it's not that the story is something new. We've seen it before, but it's the way that it's told and the way that it's acted. Like, you can feel the emotions in a lot of the performances. Whenever Baldur dies, like, you can feel Freya's pain. Like, she is not happy. This is her child that she went above and beyond to keep safe. She's now grieving the loss of a child. And that's, the core of it is just parenthood, and over again. I don't think any of us are parents, at least that we know of, but like, you can relate to it, like with your.
I have a dog.
Yeah, I have pets, but who
I call boy.
Boy. We Fetch. All have parents, and you can relate to it from the perspective of maybe being Atreus. Just when he finds out that he's basically unkillable, he becomes a cocky, arrogant teenager. That's adolescence. It's a parallel towards that. But I really love, like, the little bits that he gets drip fed. I love seeing the relationship between Kratos and Atreus grow. The scene when he finally touches him and you can see, like, Atreus welling up. I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, I'm a dad now. Like, this is my child. I will go to war for this child.
Oh my God.
But and then you get like the things that you get also find out about the bigger world, because it was like when God of War was in the Greek pantheon, we didn't know, like, is this in a vacuum? What other pantheons exist in this world? Like, does the Christian God exist?
They imply all of them.
Yeah. So you eventually find something that probably alludes to where the games are going next. Like, I buy into more of a theory that, like, Loki is not going to kill Kratos. I don't think Kratos can be killed. I think that's his punishment. Ultimately, is that he has to go through everything. But they drop huge hints where he could be going next. Like, he could be going to Egypt, which I think they probably won't do because of Assassin's Creed, at least not right away. But they also dropped, like, hints that, Shintoism is real from Japan. Celtic paganism, there's a lot of symbolism for that in the map that you find. There's all kinds of, like, hidden details, like where the story could go. But it's just like, I thought it was pretty cool that they switched up the pantheon, that you get a little bit more of the backstory. I love that it can be played as a standalone game as well. Like, you don't have to play the other 9 God of War games to play this game. You can jump right in and play it, and you'll follow along. Like, they tell you enough about the backstory. And should you play? Yeah, and like, should you play the other games? Maybe. I mean, they're a little dated. They're kind of fun. By today's standards, they're very politically incorrect. So if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, know that going in, that they are dated in that regard. But it felt like evolution, not revolution to me. Like, this is a series that's growing. It didn't do anything new. I don't think it did anything new, but everything that it did, I think it just was executed on such a good level. And as far as the story goes, like, it just, like, it's a performance that I think even non-gamers could watch this as a movie and follow along and be into it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's very friendly to, non-gamers. Yeah, beautifully said. I don't think I heard anything that I disagreed with there. Q, any thoughts?
No, you guys all hit the nail. I mean, the what was so beautiful and what makes it so good, it's not about plot, it's about the journey in the plot, and that's the character development that you see, relationship between Kratos and his kid, the struggles you see. Like, we all mention it because it's such a jarring moment in the game when Atreus learns that he's a god. He becomes unbearable, and I started to feel like
annoying
real emotions of not wanting to do what I thought I was going to have to do. I was like, I'm going to have to kill my kid because he is going to be a terrible, terrible little tyrant. I can see it coming out in him. He's
Joffrey.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was, and I didn't like the idea of it, but I was like, fuck this kid. I was getting so pissed at him because he was being such a little shit. And I really started to actually get worried, like, oh my God, is the end of our journey? I'm going to have to, I've already apparently killed my dad. I'm going to kill my kid now. And, and then seeing that, like, Atreus's attitude shift, and then seeing him come back to himself again, and like just the natural progression of how, I don't know how that was done, and then watching the relationship kind of fray apart and then begin to slowly mend back together by the time you get to the end of it was just such an emotional, really well done journey. And that is what the huge draw, because the plot, I really like how simple it is. It's go spread your mom's ashes. And then what you're enjoying is what's happening along the way. And then, you have the side intrigue of Baldur showing up, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what are they actually after? Are they just pissed because they learn there's a presence of another powerful deity in our realm? Or, you start to learn the intricate relationship between Baldur and his own mom. And then, it turns out, I believe he was sent by Odin, was his dad. And they're looking for Faye, like his wife, who they didn't know was dead yet. And he's trying to find Faye because I think Odin, it was expressed, that is obsessed with stopping his own death at Ragnarok, and plays a component on launching that. And they didn't realize that she's dead, which is when he finds the kid, he's like, I think you'll do. So he's trying to steal the kid away because it's an offspring of Faye, and maybe they can stop Ragnarok that way. It's like there's a lot of subplots and like deeper levels that you can, experience through this emotional journey, but you have to soak it all in. And it was so good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought this story was absolutely a fucking triumph in video game storytelling. So I was taking notes on things that like people said. So Steve, regarding the
Sorry, I have to say one more thing. Because I did say that I agreed with Steve, about the ending being a little underwhelming. And so the reason why I felt that way is because I had actually didn't pay attention to how many hours I played in the game. And I completely thought I had like 10 more hours. So I go live, and within 45 minutes, I end up beating the game. And I was like, wait, is this the end? Like, I just wasn't expecting it. I was like, is it over? What? Like, I was so confused because I really thought I had a lot more going on but no, that was it. And
the developers
so
really should have thought about streamers more when they make the game.
They really should have, It's so I mean, part of it's my bad not realizing how far I've gone in the game and that I was actually reaching the end. I didn't. I was under the impression that we get to Jotunheim and then there's like a whole other. Now we're in Act 3, but it was still an extremely satisfying, and I felt like the ending left you with the silence of, now we're going to deal with the repercussions of our actions. Like, Atreus killing, was it Odie that he stabbed in the throat? The son of another god. Like and then Baldur dying. Like, now we leave the mountain kind of quietly and we go back to our life, and there's this looming, cloud above you of now the consequence coming at some point. But right now we're just go home and chill.
Did everybody get the post-credit scene?
Not this playthrough, no.
But you've seen
yes.
it,
Yeah.
What's the post-credit scene?
So basically, that's not the ending. The actual ending is you go back to the house at the very start of the game, and you go in the house, and I think you have to lay in the bed. I'm not sure if that was required or not. But when you exit the house, it triggers a cutscene. And that cutscene flash forwards 3 years to the end of Fimbulwinter. at the beginning of Ragnarok, and Thor shows up at their door. Yeah, and he's not happy.
Yeah, ready to fuck their shit up. It's awesome.
Gotcha.
It's like a 1 minute cutscene. It's not like, but it's a potent one. It is.
But it's like the segue into the sequel.
And it's just like it's like the shot is like a Thor's hip, so you don't see his face or anything. It's just like he just throws his cape back, and Mjolnir's there like lightning, and it's like him versus my God, I want it so bad. So regarding the plot, I like the call to action in this game. The being that the go scatter your mother's ashes. One, because it's unique. Like, there is no giant cataclysm that they have to like save the world from or whatever. Like, it's such a simple goal. It's like jarring. It's like arresting. Like, okay, that's all we're doing, huh? So for one, I like it for that reason, and two, it establishes at the very beginning like the goal that you are on, the quest you are on. It's not a physical one, it's an emotional one. Like the goal of the game in every sense is essentially emotional closure, and in developing and exploring the character. The goal of this game is essentially Kratos' story arc and his relationship with his son, and they don't try to make it much else besides that. And they do that from like step one, like go take these ashes up. Like that is and it's reinforced even further. But this goal like takes on more and more importance, not just because of the stuff that gets in the way, but like it becomes more and more apparent that the only thing these two people share in common, the only thing that they both respect just as much, is the mother. And they are carrying this thing that is the only thing that unites them, which I think is like just so much like beauty and I don't know, symbolism in that. It's really, really awesome. So now the actual plot itself, after they established that what I think is a cool goal, is a little thin. It's just MacGuffin to MacGuffin. It's like, oh, there's black breath. Gotta go get the black breath crystal. Like, oh, there's a door with a thing on it. Gotta go get the chisel that beats that door. Like, oh, there's bushes. Gotta go get the garden shears. Like it's just like I feel like that the plot is a little thin and weak in that regard. And they could have, I guess, made a more satisfying plot if the challenges that they're facing are arising out of the characters. Like, I think every adventure plot is that. Every adventure plot is just, there's a thing in the way, we gotta get past it. Go get the thing to get past it. Like, it's just how well you hide it and where those obstacles come from. Do the obstacles come from a villain getting in their way? Do the obstacles come from their own shortcomings? Do the obstacles come from their lack of understanding, or the obstacles come from like what this game does, which is just like, oh, there's a thing there and you have to go get this thing to go past that thing. Like, and so I do feel like they could have done more with that, but I feel like that wasn't the goal of the story at all. The goal of the story was it's almost by having such a simple plot, they carve out more room for what they want to do, which is take more time with these characters. And they do. And I think the simple plot is not a bug, it's a feature, kind of thing. Could it have been cooler if the plot was a little more intricate? Maybe. Or maybe we've just felt more convoluted. I don't know. Like, I would rather have a game with a simple goal that it achieves well versus like, I'm going to shit on a beloved franchise, like a Kingdom Hearts, where it's like, oh, by adding more convoluted, we're making it better. And it's like, no, you're kind of just, I don't know what you're doing anymore. Like I don't know what the fuck is happening. Like, this isn't good. This is just confusing. Confusing is not good in and of itself. And you can get a game like, you can get a story like, obviously you can do the opposite, where you're like a fucking Game of Thrones, where it is really intricate and it's really well executed, and that's the point. So yeah, so I mean that arguably the best MacGuffin. If y'all don't know what a MacGuffin is, I keep using that word. It's this thing. It's a story. It's a thing in plot and storytelling where like there's a thing the character has to get to move forward. Like it's I think what's the director? Hitchcock, I think, is the one who made the word up. Yeah. So the best MacGuffin is the when he has to go to hell to get the heart to make the magical Vicks vapor rub for the sickness that Atreus gets, I think, because it arises from Kratos' decisions. So I feel like that's the only MacGuffin that really stands out. Like, I can't even remember all the other MacGuffins. Like, oh, Black Breath, I guess I gotta go to Alfheim. Alfheim, gorgeous, by the way. I didn't mention this in the visuals because I was trying to move us along. One thing I did not love about the visuals is that it's a little samey throughout the whole thing. Thank God they put Alfheim in there because Alfheim stood out as an amazing visual feast in the colors. I love that take on elves, like being in a jungle environment and like being bugs. Weird.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah, they need more of stuff like that. Thank God they had that, because otherwise the whole thing would have... That in Turtle Town, where the lady lives, where Freya lives, were the two visual like differences. The rest of it is just like, I mean, it's Norse. It's gray and white and stuff. But anyway, the plot, I believe someone mentioned The Last of Us. They do a better job of this, where it's also a super simple story. It's get the girl from point A to point B, but a lot of the it feels like a lot of the obstacles you have to overcome feel more organic and more like part of the world. Like it makes logical sense. Like, oh no, we've run into a group of cannibals. Oh no, we've run into this like whatever, like this things that you would naturally expect. Whereas in this game, it's just like, oh yeah, it doesn't make sense, but this light beats this black cloud. You gotta go get it. So that could have been executed a little better. But I still thought that it made room for the characters, which is all I really care about. Atreus's character arc, I agree with, I think, what everybody said. It's not just like, it's a shortcoming of the fact that this game is all one continuous shot. So the fact that this game, this technical achievement that really works to bring in the intimacy of the story, which is this continuous over the shoulder shot that they do nonstop with Kratos, also a technical achievement, works really well on the PS5 because the quick travel doesn't have as much of load times. Anyway, it also means that they have to tell the story of like, no, this whole thing literally takes 15 hours or however long it takes you to beat. Like, there is no, and 5 days later, or like, so Atreus is...
They don't mention it so much in the game, but apparently when they go to Niflheim, the elf place, and he goes into that little portal. Yeah. And he's walking, and he leaves Atreus outside of the portal to guard. He gives him his axe. Apparently that took like a few days that he was in there. Right. And
the problem is with Atreus. So the thing I'm addressing is kind of like this weird, like snap change Atreus has to being like literally can't even hurt a deer to killing a god for funsies. Like, they needed to, if they either needed to like not make that as drastic or have more time. Like, oh, months later after he's chewed on this, he's become this like, little brat, this Joffrey wannabe kind of like thing. So it kind of feels like a little bit of like a Deus Ex Machina of the character development to have him just suddenly be like, now I'm an asshole. Oh, and now I'm back to normal.
The way I took it at first was I started to wonder like, okay, is this the side effect of knowing you're a god? You're instantly I guess that's evil.
I guess that's the intention, is that just that knowledge alone would do that to anybody, I guess is what they're trying to get at, but it feels kind of flimsy.
Yeah, but also like Atreus is someone who knows a lot about those gods, and like those gods are all kind of assholes, right? So like, I think part of it, and I agree, like I don't think it's well set up, but I think a way you could have set it up was to be like, Atreus knows that the gods are all self-centered assholes, and like, he thinks because he's a human, he doesn't have that right. And I do think like an immature child, if their perspective suddenly flips from, I'm a kid who has no power, to, I am a god, the gods are all assholes, guess what I get to be? Like, I could see that, but I just don't think that's well set up, or if that was the intention, it's not like spelled out well enough.
Yeah, they could have set it up a little bit better to be a little less jarring or a little less just more believable, because that's just not how people behave, especially people as sweet and good as he starts out. But yeah, no, I think that's what they were going for, but I feel like it didn't communicate well, because they take such care with all the other character moments that this one just kind of feels like it's a little bit out of left field. But the reason they do it is because it's an interesting aspect to put into Kratos' story arc with his son. And so like it provides a good thing for them to kind of talk about and provides a good like reflection for Kratos. And so even though it doesn't make sense, I kind of give it a pass because it does set up a lot of interesting conversations. Like it sets up this really great conflict between them. So I give it a pass, but it is kind of like awkward. I'm basically just picking out things to like quibble over besides just being like, it was great. And I also love how like Kratos's character arc of like this like shame he carries with him and this looking back on his past and kind of like hating his violence and hating, you know, and just him coming so far. It's also like such a reflection of the series as a whole. It's almost like the developers are, I mean, Barlog kind of essentially stated as much, that it is them looking back and being like, we were so violent and so like crass and so like whatever now, and we have to live with that. I don't know. I just thought it was really well. It's something that it's in a conversation with itself. Like it's something that if the story existed alone, it would be great. The fact that it exists as a conversation with past titles, which I think Zach mentioned something to that effect, enhances it even further. And then I love the dwarves. They're very funny.
Yep.
Brock has some choice lines. The big bearded beaver and his sack seed stuck out as like something that was one of like Brock and Sindri, the dwarves are super hilarious. And like it made me hate Atreus when he's mean to them for no reason. Yeah. Like why? They've been like, he's just like, he never showed any amount of being annoyed with them in the past. And now it's like, I don't want to hear about these people. Anyway, I'll get off that soapbox. The sequence where Kratos gets the Chaos Blades is like one of the best sequences in video games. Like when Athena shows up out of nowhere, no mention of these gods, and Athena shows up and she's like taunting him and she's like, you'll always be a monster. And he's like, but I'll be your monster no longer.
There's nowhere you can hide, Spartan. Put as much distance between you and the truth as you want. It changes nothing. Pretend to be everything you are not. Teacher, husband, father. But there is one unavoidable truth you will never escape. You cannot change. You will always be a monster.
I know. But I am your monster no longer.
Oh, like, I don't know. Sorry. There's so many lines in this game that just like, especially with the acting, just like give me chills. Like, you know, like we'll be the gods we choose to be. Like when he, at the end, the actual ending of the game, when he like tells him the story of why he's named him Atreus, and it's because of this friend that he loved and respected. Anyway, and there's, yeah, I think that the plot of the game is weak, but the writing of the game is incredible. Is really, really great. Some of my favorite writing in a video game ever. Their relationship, Kratos, is the way you can tell how he starts to warm up to his son by what they do in battle. Like he starts off being like adequate and like all these other things. And as it goes on, he's like, that was great shot and all these other things. Like just every little nuance of this game is in service to like, we're going to tell this story about Kratos and we're going to tell the story about Kratos and his son. Everything is in service to that. And I think it's why it did so well. It's extremely effective. Yeah. And then having them talk in the boats, I loved those moments. Like it's such a really great choice because it solves so many problems at once. It's a natural, engaging way to do exposition about the world rather than have these giant lore dumps where like where you just want to like press X through like the lore dumps. They do that. They solve that by putting it like, we're going to put it when you're traveling. And then it makes more room for them
the entire
to, like,
edition
get to know each other.
Of Mimir was such an incredible, perfect like way to solve an issue of, you know, filling the silence and educating you and dropping lore. Like the fact that, okay, let's just take his head and he pins it on the back of his belt. And now you know,
So
they've opened like a whole new world of possibilities for how to use this mechanic, and it was done so well and so enjoyable, and he turned out to be a fantastic character that you
So good.
really liked. And then the way that he drops the lore, and you know, you get in the boat and he starts telling your story, and then every time you hop off the boat he's like, oh, we'll finish this later. Like, it was really well done the way he transitions out of Tales and picks back up.
It's such a good way of storytelling and of world building. Like, because like usually in most games that would be a loading screen, or that would be a 3-minute cutscene, like over and over and over again. And this game like efficiently gets rid of that, and it makes you want to travel. Like it fixes the problem of boring cutscenes, loading screens, and lame travel all in one fell swoop by just having these like it's a simple fix of just make them talk, just write good conversation and have it well acted. And now all of a sudden, like I'm extending my travel time to places because I want them to finish, as opposed to like, you know, it's just great. It's well
I
done.
love how Kratos calls him head the entire game.
Yes.
Boy, head.
And then when Atreus becomes an asshole, he starts calling him head because like that's what he's learned from his dad. Like, yeah, head. Kratos is like low key super funny. There's lots of like parts where like
the line at the start,
like when
where like they're going to hunt deer, and they're like, you know, Trace is like, where are we going? And he goes, in the direction of deer.
Of deer. Yeah. Or like when he brings the head to Freya and she's like, did you kill him? He's like, at his request. Or when Atreus is like, tell me a story. He's like, there was once a story concerning a tortoise and a hare. Like, he just tells it in this like awful, boring way. Yeah, like, oh, so good. Yeah, I think I said my whole piece. I think I said everything I wanted to say. I had a lot of, obviously I really enjoyed the story of this game. To the extent where it's like, it makes up for its shortcomings for me. There's a lot of things they probably could have done better with the gameplay or even with the plot, but they got me so invested in these characters that I was personally able to be like, I don't care. Like, it's really well done. One other negative thing I have, and this is more for future episodes. I am a huge fan when video games tell stories that only work as video games, which I know is kind of weird. The number one example of this is Undertale. For me, you can't tell the game of Undertale without it being a video game. This game would probably work as a movie, honestly. You probably wouldn't be able to get as much rich of conversations because of the travel time and stuff and just the runtime. But regardless, it doesn't matter. It's good writing and good acting is good writing and good acting no matter what medium it's in. And to me, they crushed it. So yeah, that's it.
So we'll say with the story, and you kind of like touched on how the story is kind of a meta narrative in a way where it's like the game addressing its own past and saying like, we were violent and crass before. And I do think there's something that it pulls kind of a clever move that I don't know how I feel about, because like it addresses the violence of those past games, but the big critique of the past games that I have always seen is like never the violence, it's the way that they treat women. Like playing the first game, I did not run into a single female character whose nipples I could not see. So like that's like how extreme they are in terms of like women are kind of just there to be ogled or sexually objectified in the early games. And I know that like the directors have said like they disagree with that take. It's debatable. But I think like the way that they set it up where Kratos addresses his past as saying, I was violent and killed a lot of people, and that's the game saying we were violent and a lot of people died, sort of is also a kind of sneaky way of sweeping everything from the old games under the rug while only addressing one half of that equation. And I don't know how I feel about that. You know, it's hard to like own up to a past like that a series has. And I don't envy the directors having to deal with that legacy. But at the same time, like I kind of would have liked it if the story had addressed that side of things as well. But
Yeah, that I didn't even think about that. That's a great point. I mean, at the very least, I feel like they don't do it in this game, but that's arguably not enough.
Yeah, there's like only one female character, and like the kind of big plot moment with her is like Kratos not doing the thing that she says she wants, which is she wants to let her son live at the cost of her own life, and he kills her son. So like clearly it's not treating women in the way that the first game did. Kratos is protecting her, but at the same time, it's not addressing that part of the God of War series' legacy.
Yeah, that's true. That is a shortcoming that I didn't even think about. I guess which speaks to me as a it speaks to me as a person. But yeah, that is that's a really, really that's a really subtle thing they did there. Is they made this such an apologetic game, but only apologized for what they wanted to apologize for. I guess it's an interesting take. And I guess that kind of makes the conversation it has with its past less impressive, I guess. I mean, it's better than nothing, but I guess, I don't know. I far be it for me to speak to that, but that is an interesting take that I had not considered.
Well, and we're probably not the right people to decide what, if that gets forgiven or not either. So.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting when you're making a game about breaking the cycle of violence that you ignored sexual violence that was present in the rest of the franchise. It's very interesting.
And like some of the I read about some of the sexual violence in some of them, and it's like pretty extreme in a couple of them.
Oh yeah. In God of War Ascension, there's a female boss that you kill, and when you killed her, the original name of the achievement or trophy, because it's PlayStation, was Bros Before Hoes. And we're talking like this is in 2012, 2013.
Like, and it's like a really visceral kill too, right?
Yeah, you stomp her face in with like the heel of your foot.
Oh my gosh.
But they ended up changing the name because there was such a backlash, but it was just like, 10 years ago, like at Sony Santa Monica, somebody was everybody was like, yeah, that's fine.
Green light that. Yeah, that's awful. Well, that sucks. I don't have any. It's just that sucks. I don't have a clever retort for that. It's something that I honestly had not thought about. I think largely because I hadn't played about the other games. Sure. Like I had heard there's sex mini games, but I didn't realize it was so explicitly violent towards women specifically.
It's not what this game is about. It's just a thing that happens during the game. And maybe that wasn't even their intention. I'm not one of the developers. I can't speak for them. I don't know that their intention was to pull that clever move, but they still pulled that move.
They still pulled it. Yeah. Yeah. That stinks.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, I think maybe they did not set out to achieve everything they should, but what they set out to achieve, they achieved well.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot to love about this game.
It is the moment of truth, where the storied, just incredible GOAT Games panel decide, is this game a GOAT or is it a most overrated of all time? A moat. Okay. Make your case. I'm gonna eeny meeny miny moe it. Eeny meeny miny mo. Catch a tiger by his tail. If you always let him go. Eeny meeny miny mo. Rob, you're first.
All right. Well, I feel like I'm probably going to be the dissenter here. I think this is a really good game, but for me, I don't think I can give it a GOAT. The parts about this game that are the best part of this game are things that could be a movie or a TV show. And if the thing about your game that's the unique selling point of it is it would be a really good movie or TV show, and the gameplay, the combat's, it's good. It's not my taste, but it's still good. But I liked the PlayStation 1 combat better. And then you got puzzles and climbing. For me, I like this game a lot, but I don't love it. I don't think I might even love it a little bit. I love the story of it, but I don't think I can give it a GOAT, unfortunately.
Sad. Rip.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's one down. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Oh, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by his tail. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Zach.
For me, it's definitely a GOAT. This is a must play. If you have the ability to play this game, it's on PS4, PS5, playable on PS5, playable on PC. Even if you're not into like the Norse pantheon, you're not into the concept of God of War, this is something that you owe to yourself to play. Is it a perfect game? No. But I don't believe a perfect game exists. You know, it got a lot of 10 out of 10s. I don't think there is a 10 out of 10 game. But I do agree with, you know, like the Metacritic consensus is that this is a 94 out of 100. Like, yeah, I feel like this has definitely earned every bit of that, like 9.4 out of 10. Like, that's probably a rate around where I would score it personally. I don't think I've met anybody that would be, you know, that would say, no, this is a waste of your time. Like, this is something you need to experience. It doesn't matter if you're a longtime fan of the franchise. It doesn't matter if this is your first game in the franchise. It's a technical marvel what was done, you know, on the base PS4. It's just something I feel like if you are a gamer,
the capital
G, this is a game. You know, this is a game that you need to play. It lives up to the hype that was around, you know, the release. You know, it does so many things right. Like, is it flawed? Yes. You know, would I even go so far as to say is it a flawed masterpiece? Yeah, I might go that far with it. But, you know, it's definitely worth your time. And I would definitely put it in like a top 15, top 20 games of all time list.
All right. Excellent. All right, here we go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by his toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Steve.
I really like this game. I do think it's a must play as well, but I don't think I can give it the GOAT status.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like, you know what? I feel like I can't even judge this game until the second game's out because I just feel like it's not done. It's not like the game's not over. And I'm waiting for that patch, that $75 patch to come through where I can complete the game and
$75 DLC.
Yeah, I know. Because it's just like, I don't think it's done yet. And I can't judge it now. As of now, I can't give it a go because I don't think it's finished. And, you know, the combat's great. I like the combat. I like the game a lot. I do think it's a must play if you have a PS4. It's probably the best PS4 game.
Blood.
I like God of War 3 more. I do. I don't know. I think God of War 3 is the best one so far. So, you know, I think, you know, because of that, you know, like I said, maybe once that $70 DLC comes in, I'll be able to judge it as a whole. But for now, on its standalone, I just can't say it, especially when the second game coming out, which
November.
I feel like, yeah,
November.
I feel like, with that coming out, I feel like it's just going to be, it's going to overshadow this. Hopefully, I'm assuming, you know, they'll probably tweak some things, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the same game with probably a better plot. Probably.
Yeah, we are less than 2 months to the day at the time of recording from the launch.
Okay. I got it pre-ordered, so. but that, without that being said, as of now, I can't give it a go.
All right,
unfortunately.
Okay, that's fair, I guess. Q. I don't want to. Okay, Q. I don't want to use my influence badly, but just suffice to say, I need you, bud. I need I need a majority rule. No, I'm just kidding.
And use those two-fisted punch through the game with.
Yeah, listen, times are tough, okay?
I need your meaty fisting. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. If it doesn't reach it, that's okay. I'll just need to find different co-hosts.
No, this game for me is a GOAT all the way through and through. It was from the moment I loaded it up and got to the loading screen to being surprised when I hit play that the same character I was looking at on the loading screen, I was already playing the game, to the last moment when I'm walking down from Jotunheim after figuring out the big plot twist. It was absolutely described as an experience. The whole there I was not unentertained through just about every moment of playing this game. It was a ride, and it was beautifully done. It flowed really, really well. It was such a wonderful experience, and I was so engrossed in it. And uh, I mean, introducing the Norse pantheon and like the mythology and all of that just added another layer of so much enjoyment. And I had the pleasure of people from Iceland and familiar with the languages and all that in my chat. So they were like transcribing to me what some of the spells were and what people were saying and talking to me. Like I could only imagine for them how much more awesome it is playing throughout this game, as they were like, this is by far my favorite game. It's so cool. Like this, I grew up learning about all these people, and it's just so much fun to see how they were satisfied with how they were portrayed and put into the game. And I think, I have not cared this much about a single player story driven game in a while. And this was just so refreshing and just a fantastic adventure through and through. Yeah, I'd love for a better combat system, but it was still a really fun combat system. It was the experience of walking through the shoes of these characters that made it such an achievement. So I'm going with a GOAT.
Hell yeah. Well, I guess it's me. Yeah, I didn't really care for it. Just kidding. No, yeah. This is one. I think this absolutely deserves a GOAT title. One of the greatest of all time. I think if someone were to like do a history of video games, you wanted to play the most influential games of all time, you would be really remiss to leave this out of your Criterion collection or whatever the hell. Yeah, I mean, so many of the problems that I expressed with the game, and I think a lot of the other people here expressed with the game, is simply like, I just want more of it. Like the combat's great. It would be better if it was more in depth. Like I know I'm kind of like putting words in some of your mouths or whatever, but like that's how I felt about it. I feel like that I wasn't the only one with that sentiment. Like the game felt unfinished, like implying like it feels like it ended too soon. Like if your main complaint of like a lot of the things going on in it is like, it's good, maybe even it's great, but like it felt like it could have been more. I wanted more like killing animations. The ones that are there are great, but I wanted more of them. Like, like the enemies are great, but it needs more variety. Like I think if the fact that like your main complaint or my main complaint, I should say, I shouldn't put words in anybody's mouths, is that like the things that are here are great. It's just like the things are so great that I would have liked more of it or more in-depth versions of it. As opposed to like other games or where like the main problems are just problems. Like I withheld a GOAT from Earthbound last week because which I've played more of, by the way. But to me, it's like some of those systems are just not working. Like so some of the things that are happening, it's not that I want more of it. It's like to me didn't execute it very well. And I feel like this game didn't have that issue. It's one of the best character studies done in a game ever, I feel like, which is a common thing you'll see in like movies and books and other kinds of media, but games being still so early and it's still fairly in its infancy as far as an art form, hasn't been attempted to this degree, this skill or scope. And I feel like what they set out to do, they executed very well. Is it a perfect game? No. Is it a perfect story? No. But what they set out to do, I think they achieved better than I think I've seen in any other game, both AAA and even indie games. They feel like they really, really did a great job with what they did. There's things I think that they could have been better, and hopefully this next entry will do that. I think this entry's got a huge tall order to top the emotional arcs of this game. I wouldn't even be surprised if they didn't even focus on it. If they were just like, okay, the first game was the emotional part, let's just make an adventure this time. I don't know. I
don't think they should.
You don't think they should focus on the emotional thing? You think what I said? Okay, yeah. I think that there's not. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be hard to top. I mean, I guess they have this whole thing with like, is Atreus going to break bad and kill Loki, which they hint at the trailer of the game when it shows the reverse silhouette of Atreus walking in the door, which is the exact opposite of Kratos walking in the door. And he's got the Loki horns. I'm so excited. So anyway, yeah, I think this is a GOAT. I think that anyone interested in video games should give it a shot, because even if you end up not liking it, it's one of the best executed story driven experiences in gaming, in my opinion. So yeah, I think that's it. All right. Well, assuming we're going with majority rules, which I still haven't decided, I guess that makes it a GOAT. I guess I was right. I'm just kidding.
I don't know if that's how we did it on the Earthbound one.
I was wrong about Earthbound, but yeah.
Okay, guys. Let's wrap this bad boy up. Dear baby listener, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to our very long but hopefully interesting discussion of a good game.
Some might say a GOAT game.
Some might even say a GOAT game. Those in the right will say a GOAT game. No, I'm 100% kidding. I'm 100% kidding. I'm not going to keep beating that dead horse. Let me reintroduce all of our wonderful co-hosts. We have on alphabetical order. We have Q. Q, do you want to like plug your shit again?
Yeah.
Q fell asleep.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was really fun playing the game. Always love hanging out and chatting with these guys. My name is Rat Parade. You can find me on Twitch, rat_parade.
You got it right.
And yeah, I had to look it up. I knew my own name. So you might be able to catch me playing some of these games or some GTA roleplay.
Excellent. And then next up is RS. Next up is Rob.
So yep, Rob. At Twitch at Super Captain Rob. That's the big place to catch me. Again, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, starting at 5:30 Central Standard Time, and Saturdays usually at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you want to come by and hang out, it's usually very silly and goofy. We play games, but mostly chat just distracts me. So yeah, it's a fun time. If you want to come by and hang out, we'd love to see you.
Excellent. Steve?
Yeah, my name is Steve. Yeah, you can come check me out at twitch.tv/Steve for cheese. That's the number 4. Are we talking about the podcast precinct at all?
Yes, I'm actually gonna go back in time and mention it at the beginning when I'm editing it, and I'm gonna mention it here in just a minute.
Okay. Well, I just want to give a shout out to a couple of the shows there. Your Average Ordinary.
Yeah. Oh, well, let me just. Okay, so guys, huge news. We are. So if you're listening to this, okay, you probably heard me say something at the beginning about this, and so you're wondering why I'm fumbling around so much. That's because I forgot to mention it live. And the version you heard was actually future Alan. But now I'm telling you in real time that we got picked up on a podcast network called The Network. The podcast precinct is the subsidiary of it. I double checked with the owner. It is, we have been picked up by The Network, which is full of really great fun shows. You can check out their website at B as in boy, C boy again, P as in planet-radio.com/podcasts. You can find us there as well as a bunch of other really fun shows. So check it out, baby. And Steve, you wanted to mention, Steve has been a friend of that podcast network for a long time, and he wanted to do some shout outs, I think.
Yeah, I just, I know they're giving us some shout outs. I just figured we'd reciprocate here.
Yes, please do.
So I just want to give a shout out to Your Average Ordinary. You can find me on there a couple times. I'm going to be on this weekend coming up, so that'll be out soon. Eat Sleep List is another great podcast, as well as What's Going On with Ben and Tyler. So shout outs to all those guys. I know they're giving us some shout outs as well. So I appreciate it, and I love you guys.
Just listen to the latest episode of Eat Sleep List. Yes. Just today, finished it earlier today.
They did a video game boss. Is it that one?
Yeah, that's the one I did. I was like, oh, this one.
I gotta
I
listen to that one. That one
I
sounds
clicked
good.
on that one.
I was jealous. I was like, "Do you need someone for that?"
Yeah,
no, we're covered. I was like,
yeah, if only I'd come on the network sooner, I could have been like, well, you should probably talk to me. And then let's see, that's Rob. And then Zachary, go ahead and plug yourself right in there.
Yeah, if you're bored, you can find me eventually on twitchtv.com/ZachAttacksGames. That's Zach with an H. There's links to like my social medias. I post cute dog pictures on Twitter and Instagram from time to time. I'm, like I said, be back to streaming pretty soon. Working on a couple things, got a couple ideas that I'm cooking up, and just want to see what the feasibility is. In the house that I live in right now, my office is kind of cramped, so I'm hurting for space. I'm surrounded by all my hobbies.
Ah, yes, I know the feeling. The walls are closing in. And my name is Alan Newton. I go by Figio or Figgy. My Twitch handle is twitch.tv/Figgy_O. I have a freshly minted Twitter account too that I haven't twoten yet. But you can find me at Figgy_O there as well. And some housekeeping stuff. So yeah, like I said, huge news. We have been picked up by the network. And I'm going to mention it one more time. You can check out the website there at bicbp-radio.com/podcasts. Some really great content on there. I've been perusing. There's another video game podcast which is called Retro Bliss. They're really great. Been listening to them. If you like retro games, they're fantastic. Let's see what other things. We have a G.O.A.T Games podcast Twitter account, also freshly minted. Right, and it's at G.O.A.T Games Pod. We have a Facebook page, also freshly minted. You can tell I've been busy. And we have an email at goatgamespodcast@gmail.com. Send in your listener questions about games, about us, about Twitch, about whatever you want. If any of them are interesting, maybe we'll talk about them. Maybe we won't. I don't really know yet, but we'd love to hear from you. Right now we're shouting into a void and we can't hear back from you. And I would love to hear back from you. And I think that's about it for the housekeeping. Next month or next episode, we are going to be playing Super Mario World. One of my favorite platformers ever. That's the SNES one. For those of you who don't know, you can catch us on our Twitch. Some of us will be hopefully playing that beforehand. I think that's about it. Any other, I need to put this in my script. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you like the podcast, go and put a review. If you didn't like it, go lie. It's for a good cause.
It really helps with the algorithm bull crap.
It does. It does. I don't fully understand it. But yeah, it helps us. And like, follow, subscribe, whatever you got to do on whatever platform you're doing to make sure you catch our next episodes. Woo! Okay, everyone. So I think the sign off is going to be GG's. Do we want to do it together, like a big group GG's, or should I just do it?
You just do it, man.
Okay, y'all don't seem very excited about GG's. Okay, everyone. Till next time, GG's. Steve, I felt like you were a little quiet last time. Not to put you on blast, I can edit that out. But do you want to start us off talking about the story?
Damn, Figgy.
No. It is 100% okay.
You leave that in, you coward.
No, it is 100% okay. So on, wait. Take a quick break.
You know what? I felt like I talked about audio when I talked about.
I will talk
about the story because I have a lot to say about this.
No. I just want to emphasize that was not a call out. It is 100% okay.
You're fine. You're fine.
Anybody here?
We all know.
I'm just messing with you. Now you're gonna actually have to edit this out because people are gonna be like, "Oh my god, he's actually mad at him."
I will edit. Yeah.
Discord on the G.O.A.T Games podcast.
G.O.A.T Games Derailed in episode 3.
Behind the pod.
The future future is bleak.
Yeah. You know, we all hated each other, but Figgy would always edit it to make it seem like we were friends.
Yeah, right. That seemed like he would add in laughter too. He would just take our streams, like clips of us laughing in our streams, and just copy and paste.
Does the cheese stink? An editorial by Figgy.
All right. Anyways, the story.